the tape, let's grind. Shut up. The tape, the tape. Let's grind. The tape. We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape, let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape, let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape, the tape. Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape, the tape.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
The tape.
UGA game day, boy, we ball out. Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach, and the bench deep. Right. Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting. Yep. Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense hunkered down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Found guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Kirby Smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back, like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, dog nation on the move. What's up?
We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape, the tape.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape, the
Shut
tape.
up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape,
The
bro.
tape.
Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up. The tape.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in on a fabulous Tuesday evening here on the channel. We got a tremendous one for you. It's loaded as usual. We're going to be talking about who's bouncing back. Couple of football teams with an opportunity to shake back from bad performances, whether it be last week or whether they've been stacking bad performances. Couple teams with opportunities in big football games this week to shake back to their standard. Who are those football teams? How can they get it done? We'll talk about that tonight. Fake injury fix. I've talked about this one on social media. It seems that this is still a talking point in college football. I'm going to try to put an end to it and give you the most easily digestible and implemented rule change possible with regards to fake injuries. We've got week 7 predictions coming to you guys tonight. There seems to be a redshirt pandemonium going around with college football.
Week 8.
Week 8, nonetheless. Week 8 predictions. Appreciate that. Big Ten shaping up. Big Ten shaping up for a very funny ending, apparently, according to the show notes. We'll find out, and by we, I mean me and you as an audience. We'll find out what that's all about later on in today's program as well. But I want to open with this, man. The show has gone through a tremendous amount of growth, and I know we do this every once in a while, but I always feel compelled to give you guys kudos for those showing up and showing out, man. As I wrote the notes to this today at about 5 o'clock this afternoon, we're at 31.5 thousand subscribers. I'm pretty sure we'll cross over 31.8 by the end of this show. probably close to 32,000 by the end of the evening, man. It's been a tremendous amount of growth over the last month. I mean, we've had 5,000 new subscribers just in the last 28 days. We got Power 4 football coaches tuning in on a regular basis, some of which confirming so in front of national television cameras. We don't have a single film study nowadays, guys, that hits the timeline and stays there for 24 hours and doesn't go over 10,000 views within 24 hours. I mean, as soon as those things are hitting, they are popping. And what's happening, I have found, is we've got more and more fan bases finding us at a higher rate and and becoming stickier and stickier and stickier. So what I'm hoping, when you guys find those film studies, you ultimately find these live shows, because I think this is some of the best live content you will find on the internet. And if this is your first show, this is the first one you found and watched during the live hours, welcome in. All right, the next goal is 50,000 subscribers, but welcome in to those new folks here tonight. Strap in. We got a loaded one for you. First and foremost, before we get too far into the night's action, I want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this season, BetUS is indeed the answer. Head over to BetUS today using the link in the description. Use promo code YouTube150, guys, and you'll get a 150% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first deposit and 125% deposit match on your next two deposits. The boy Kirby is going to be hollering at us with some best bets later on this evening, most likely in the local hour. We've got just too much to talk about in this national hour. We're going to be saving that, all right, for that good old dog hour. All right, you guys ready? Welcome in, by the way.
Thanks,
thank
man.
you.
How y'all doing?
Doing
Doing
good.
well.
What do you want to start with tonight?
Ooh. Do we actually get to choose, or is it just you're asking? And then
I don't know. I don't have any dissertations on the show notes, so there's nothing I'm soliloquizing.
Who's going to bounce back? That's
Huh?
right. Let's talk
All
about
right,
bounce
let's talk
backs.
about this. Who's bouncing back? Some big weekends and big opportunities for several football teams, two of which are facing off against one another. I think anybody watching Tennessee football this year would agree they are not playing to their offensive standard from a passing game standpoint, right? Definitely not there. Bama has played very inconsistent football and non-complimentary football the last 2 weeks. These two teams face off in Neyland Stadium this weekend, boys. We'll get the prediction a little bit later, but which of these two football teams has the better chance to bounce back to their quote-unquote standard, whether it be Bama dominating like they should be, playing complimentary football like they normally do, no, they've had a coaching change, or Tennessee getting back to that deep pass choice attack and hitting those shots?
I'm going to say that Alabama has the better chance just because I think they have the two better football players that would allow them to bounce back. I know the offense has not been the issue for them. I know they've been scoring points, but I'd say Jalen Milroe, Ryan Williams, and all around that offense in totality, I would say I think that leads me to believe they would have a better odds of bouncing back, getting things back on track. And I think they have better football players on the defensive side of the football too. I think they still have Malachi Moore, who's an experienced college football player, Jahad Campbell, a really good football player. And I think too, that secondary is young. And this is something I talked about with Georgia last night. They may be inexperienced. They may be playing some young corners, but I think they're only going to get better as the season progresses. I think this coaching staff is only going to get better as the season progresses as well.
I think Alabama's probably the more likely team to bounce back here, but I don't think Alabama's playing so far below their baseline of what they should be. They're still a very explosive team. They're still extremely dangerous, and they're still kind of a feast or famine offense where if they're not hitting explosive, they're not knocking you over the head with things, they're probably going to burn out quickly, and that causes a stress on the defense. I know the defense has had a couple more busts in the last few weeks that we've seen than they had in the first half of the season, but I don't think that Alabama the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks that they've played has been so uncharacteristically not themselves. Now, the Vanderbilt loss, absolutely, and we kind of talked about why. Staying in man is going to cause issues for that. The offense was still themselves for the most part. You only have the ball for 18 minutes and you put up 35 points. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And you had 2 turnovers. So, and last week against South Carolina, a couple of bad mistakes by Jalen Milroe, a couple of bad reads, a couple of turnovers again, a safety towards the back end of the first half. So I think Alabama's more likely to bounce back, but I also don't think they're playing so far below what they should be playing at right now.
Yeah, and offensively, like we talked about earlier in the week, I don't know how many football teams are going to be able to execute the game plan that South Carolina put up against you guys. Like in terms of the edge rush capabilities and just the style of play, how they chose to attack you guys for 4 quarters and attack that style of play from the quarterback. I just don't see that happening moving forward. And the defense becoming more multiple. Now, this is a totally different animal coming up this weekend. Everybody knows that when Tennessee's offense comes in, you kind of basically have to throw out most of your traditional defensive game plans and play a new style of defense. But moving forward throughout the season, I think this defense could ultimately settle itself as they become a little bit more comfortable being more multiple. And that's the key nowadays to playing college football. I think the more and more we do these film studies on really, really high-end defenses, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a differentiation between pre-snap and post-snap looks, creating more confusion and holding the football from opposing quarterbacks. And that's something they've certainly got to get better at. And they showed that ability against South Carolina. And I think that and some overall execution things made them perform a lot better on the defensive side of the football in that game.
And I think, too, with Tennessee, a reason why I would say they're less likely is their issues feel a lot less fixable right now.
Yeah. Now, here's the good news. And I love doing this now that we're actually growing. I've always loved doing the film studies, but I love doing it in the sense that it's growing because I do get that temperature gauge and I get that correction from these fan bases. And when we do that film study and we talk about, man, like, Tennessee fans, please let me know, is something going on with this guy? And, speaking of the left tackle, right, the Hurd guy, turns out has had a high ankle sprain, has been battling back, been in and out with regards to practice. So the conditioning levels have not certainly been at the rate that they're supposed to be. So the good news, right, is that no, the lack of separation and that necessarily the whole entire clarity of the pocket isn't always going to get fixed and get cleaned up, but you're expecting some type of growth and improvement from Hurd moving forward, right? Because this guy is banged up and he is going to play his way back to elite shape, you would assume.
You would think so.
You would think so. Now, that does nothing for the run game issues that have started to present themselves over the last several games. They looked elite in those first 3 football games in the run department, and Dylan Sampson has remained elite on tape, right? He's making guys miss, and he's turning, -2s into +6s and sometimes even more than that. But if they can start consistently opening up creases for this guy, the sky's the limit for the offense in terms of running the football. But they have absolutely got to start hitting these shots.
Absolutely.
But if you don't clean up the protection, you're right. It's not fixable. All right, on to our next options of who's more likely to bounce back. 2 teams, 2 separate conferences, no familiar opponents. All right, except for maybe Florida. Miami, Missouri. 2 football teams that have 2 games on their schedule this year where they either barely escaped wins or barely took a loss or didn't show up and got their butt whipped like Missouri did, right? So which one of these football teams that's playing a middling opponent as a major favorite is more likely to play like themselves and bounce back? Is it Miami against a Virginia football team? Or is it Missouri against an Auburn football team? Which one of these programs has a more likelihood to bounce back and look like that top 10 football program that we thought they were just a couple weeks ago? Miami has still done this, but we're talking about Miami looking like they're supposed to as a top 6 football program at this point.
It's so hard to gauge because I think that both of these teams are heading into matchups where, me personally, it's a little difficult for me to judge how these games are going to unfold, especially Missouri versus Auburn. I feel like there's 10 different ways that football game could go because Auburn as a football team is so unpredictable. Missouri, as we have found out this year, is such an unpredictable football team as well. So that's going to make me say Miami because I think that a great quarterback like Cam Ward can cover a lot of different things for a football team, and he's still playing confident. He hasn't even been the issue.
I went with Miami because Auburn is better than Virginia, and I think Miami is better than Missouri.
Well, Miami has Louisville, right?
Excuse me. No. Yeah, Louisville.
But
you're right.
Maybe equal teams, you
Equal
could say.
teams.
So not necessarily any difference there. But yeah, I would absolutely agree with that statement as well. So I think that having a confident quarterback remaining despite all the chaos that has unfolded for Miami this season, I think that they can continue to roll with that. They got a really good wide receiver too in Xavier Restrepo. So just I think that Miami has the better odds of bouncing back this week.
I talked about this not last week, but after the Cal game, I have put a hex on Miami. They are dead to me. I don't believe in them at all. I'm done with them. I'm done giving them any praise.
I'm certified first team hater.
Good.
That's what I am.
So I'm picking Missouri to be the better bounce back team here. I don't buy anything Miami's selling. Dang, F-bomb already.
I mean, it slipped. I know it was whispered. You should have let it ride, man.
Don't be snitching.
Sorry, man. But no, the Tigers are more likely to bounce back here simply because I hate the Hurricanes.
So,
There's that for analysis, man. How you like that?
the channel's signing up for Miami hatred, and here's why. This is a game we're playing. We think Miami fans love to be hated. So we're going to hate you. We're going to do what you want us to do. We're going to hate on Miami. We're going to root for your downfall, and hopefully you'll love us for it. I think it's a good game plan. I think we're the only one on the internet taking this one, by the way.
Good.
It's a good angle. It's a unique angle.
We've planted
You
our
know what?
flag in the Miami hate.
At this rate, maybe we end up on a Miami pregame clip.
Ooh.
Like just a little splice.
I've already, you know what? Miami, outside of Georgia, is the only football program to clip this show.
Yeah.
A while back, me
I
talking
remember.
about Jamal Adai. Doesn't sound like such a great soundbite nowadays, but hey, it is what it is. Shout out to Georgia's social team for doing that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Elite. All right. Let's see here. Which one of these bad football teams that looked good against Georgia is more likely to return to the sewer of the SEC? Is it Auburn or is it Mississippi State? Auburn's got Missouri this weekend. Mississippi State hosting Texas A&M at home. Which one of these teams is going back to I'm some shit football?
It's weird because Mississippi State's success feels so anecdotal because it was Michael Van Buren came out. That was his second start against Georgia, and they finally let him start ripping it. And when they did, he had some great success with it. Prior to that, Mississippi State had been awful. Auburn, on the other hand, has had, for the most part, a consistent offense at times. It's just they've been so turnover prone that offensive consistency gets wiped away immediately. The question is, which do you think is more lasting? Is Auburn going to stay turnover free longer, or is Mississippi State going to be able to remain explosive as they were? I would like to believe that Auburn's offensive consistency through the first 6 games, even though it's been plagued by turnovers, is probably a little more sustainable than what we saw in one game against Georgia, where they were pretty much saying, hey, we really have nothing to lose here. Let's air it out. And we got a couple of success on double moves and things like that. I'm going to lean Auburn here to bounce back just because I think that their offense is more sustainable.
Bounce back in the sense that they're going to be still decent, and Mississippi State's going back to the sewer. This was one of those negative bounce backs. Which one's bouncing back into the sewer? Not bouncing back to like a decent performance, but bouncing back into the sewer.
Then give me Mississippi
with
State.
Pennywise. You living in a sewer.
I don't think that was a line from the movie.
No, that's the famous Michael Myers TikTok.
Yeah.
Pennywise out here talking about, I'll be doing numbers. You living in a sewer.
I guess I missed that.
Mississippi State's going up against the wrong opponent to sustain what they did against Georgia. I think that Texas A&M is one of the best, if not the best, defense in the SEC right now. They're playing really good football. They're playing consistent too.
I had this take on Texags today.
Yeah,
Are they the best team in the SEC? The best defense in the SEC right now?
I mean, they're playing like it.
I mean, who would be the 3, or who would be some candidates? Texas A&M,
Oklahoma,
Texas on paper.
Yeah, Texas on paper is
South Carolina. South Carolina's winning games on defense.
They're getting turnovers.
But they have weeks where they give stuff up.
Yeah.
Kentucky,
yeah. I would say Texas A&M right now. Right now, I would say is playing the best defense in
they've
the
got
conference.
dudes and the tape to back that take up.
And I think too about Mississippi State, and maybe part of the
Tennessee, we forgot.
Yeah, Tennessee, they're playing good too. I think part of the reason why I would lean this way too is Mississippi State kind of did something against Georgia that they hadn't done all year, which was start throwing the ball and throwing it confidently and actually hitting on shots. And I think that now that maybe you kind of showed that a little bit, maybe leaned into, maybe we take that direction with Van Buren. He seems to be a guy that can make those throws. I don't know that you're going to have that much success anymore through the air, trying to take the top off of a defense.
By the way, A&M is absolutely strapping right now. They have yet to allow a passer over 300 yards. They've yet to allow a passer complete 65% of his balls.
Like a blanket over, you could say.
Yeah, one could say they are applying a blanket. That boy Eli Drinkowitz. Either way. Are we not talking about Texas A&M enough?
I don't think anybody is.
I don't think anybody is. I don't think anybody's realistically looking at this. And maybe they need a home overtime win over Ole Miss or a caliber of a team like that to be like, all right, should we look at LSU? Because I feel like this week that conversation is being had, at least nationally. I don't think we're having this conversation enough about Texas A&M because how well they run the football. Okay, Connor Wigman now apparently going to be something, or maybe a single game overreaction, whatever it is. But if he's going to play like that, they're a realistic football team considering what they've got going on the defensive side of the football and at the running back position with Le'Veon Moss. This is a really, really, really good football team bordering on great in this conference, and there's very few great ones right now, it seems.
I think that maybe what kind of hindered some of the conversation around Texas A&M is the fact that they did have a bye this weekend. So it didn't really lead into any further conversation of what Texas A&M is going to do after beating Missouri, not until now. So, and there's a lot of big football games last week. So a lot of the attention was focused in the right places. Previewing Ohio State, Oregon, and some other big games in the conference. So I think it'll start picking up some steam, especially if you come out this week and you dominate a team.
Pretty manageable schedule. I know they have Texas at the end of the year, but
it is manageable.
Yeah.
It's a manageable schedule.
And I think Texas A&M also suffers from the fact that they beat Missouri so badly that people almost illegitimize that win. Said,
people just made fun of Missouri for being bad instead of crediting A&M for being good.
You beat a top 10 team by 30 points. What was it? Yeah, it's because the top 10 team was a fraud, actually. It had nothing to do with you being that good. Now, if you win that game in overtime or by 2 scores maybe, I think people even look at it better.
I don't think anybody but Billy Lucci had Texas A&M in the college football playoff picture in the middle of October.
Nah.
Shout out to the Ags, man. And shout out to Mike Elko. I want to resurface that take we had on that in the complimentary fashion for him. The ability to keep all those quarterbacks on the roster in today's day and age. Almost unprecedented.
Yeah.
Unprecedented for what that guy did in terms of roster retention as a new football coach at that particular position when a guy like Marcel Reed had tape out there. That bowl game looked phenomenal. Everybody knew, even when he was named the starter this year, everybody's like, oh, that's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
We all knew that. Every other college football coach knew that as well. I would imagine he was getting some poachable phone calls. Shout out to Texas A&M and what Mike Elko's got going on down there. Boys, we have a fake injury problem in college football. By the way, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, and review. We have a injury problem, a fake injury problem in college football. And this is something that it's not new to college football.
Nope.
This has been a problem, I would say, for 3 or 4 years.
I would almost say it's been about 5.
All right. So 5 years ago, it started. 3 years ago, it got bad.
Yeah.
Now it's just out of this world. It's ridiculous. Every football game I watch, even when teams aren't pace-oriented offenses. This happens to Georgia. This happens all the time to teams who aren't even like Tennessee fast. They're not even Mississippi State fast. They're not even Ole Miss fast. And it happens almost every time a big play happens or against these pace offenses, the first down of the possession. So I think this is really, really simple. I think it's really simple, and I've tweeted about this, but I've not brought this take to this channel yet. If you can't jog off the field, then we have to evaluate you, and you're out the rest of the possession. It's nice and simple. If you are physically incapable of getting off the field, then stay down. We'll take an injury timeout. If we need to go to the injury timeout, then you cannot come onto the field anymore. Too many of these rule changes, or for that possession, too many of these rule changes have come in and people are suggesting different things that put the onus on the referee. What we can't have happen is a referee sitting there trying to determine whether or not an individual is hurt or whether or not an individual is faking an injury. If we're putting that onus on a referee, we're going to make some bad decisions. If you don't think that's going to happen, look at targeting. Targeting's a mess right now. We have so many people thinking different things every time a targeting comes up. So what happens when a guy falls onto the ground and starts grimacing in pain and rolling around and then gets up and walks to the sideline and then comes back in and because you deemed it a real injury, but it's actually a fake injury because they got good actors over there? We can't do this. What we can do, all right, because again, most of these injuries are happening on fast-paced offenses the moment they have a first down. Because once these fast-paced offenses get that first down, it's like hyperspeed right after that, right? It's immediately on the ball, taking shots right after your head, right? Or they're doing this right after a big explosive midway through the drive. These fake injuries aren't happening on play 10. They're happening nowadays when teams are trying to get going on their tempo. So if you put into a rule that if you go down and we have a TV timeout, if it's on play 1 and it's an 11-play series, buddy, you can't come back into that series. What's going to ultimately happen is, guys, if that's the rule, you're going to slow this down, A, and B, if you don't, coaches are going to have to basically start possessions with their backups and hope that, okay, we're going to start the backup here, and if they start going fast, if they start having success, then we're going to fake an injury? No, guys aren't going to go into that much detail to try to cheat the system. They're just going to have to play it true. And by the way, guys need to be playing it true. The sport needs it to be played true. I don't know about you guys, but I love college football because of the styles of offense. I love college football because of the points. I love college football because of the speed of play. I don't watch Sunday football. I don't talk Sunday football. I talk Saturday football, and I love Saturday football, and this is a hindrance on the game right now. They need to fix it, and I think this is the best way to do it.
Yeah, and I think that every coach who is kind of notorious for utilizing this tactic, Lane Kiffin's probably the biggest name out there, would agree with you on this. This, to me, seems like something Lane Kiffin is doing, not because he sees it as a strategic advantage, more as he does exposing a rule that's problematic in college football. If you can hammer this home so much that everyone's saying there needs to be a change, he's doing his job. I think that at the end of the day, yes, it is beneficial to, if an offense is going fast, go down, have a player come out, they don't miss but 2 or 3 plays, you stop the momentum offensively. Yes, I get that. But I also think Lane Kiffin and the rest of the coaches understand that it's kind of unethical. Kirk Herbstreit's talked about it. So doing this, what you're doing now is exposing the rule for as bad as it is, and you're hammering it home so much to the fact that everyone agrees with you there has to be a change.
Do you agree with me that you can't put this in the hands of the referees?
Yeah, and I also agree that you can't make this a subjective call, because let one player actually be hurt and then let a ref say, oh, you know,
and
5-yard penalty or whatever.
It's so simple. If you've played the sport, like, if I can't get off the field, before this stuff was like, hey, we're going to get a TV timeout like in high school, you limp off the field. If your shoulder's separated, you run to the sideline with your damn shoulder separated, right? It's going to sound crazy. If you got your bell rung and you got a concussion, you find your way over to the sideline. You don't stop play. That's not what it was. But once this fast-paced offense started, all this stuff started happening. Nowadays, guys tell players, hey, if you're hurt, lay down. And I understand that. But if you're really hurt, lay down. And if you can't get off the field, lay down.
Well, not even that. I think it's also the optics of it are so much better, too. Like, if a player is hurt and they cannot return to the field of play, that's not an issue. You're not putting the player in any more danger. You're not saying,
Correct.
oh, you're being insensitive to the fact that this player might be hurt. If you're hurt, stay out for this possession, get all the medical attention you need.
If you can't get off the field, you need to be evaluated.
And in doing that, you're going to eliminate the incentive to cause these fake injuries, because, yes, you're stopping clock, but you're also going to be losing a key player. Now, if coaches are very keen on wanting to do this, you're going to see them putting in designated hurt players and things like that. That'll happen some, but I think this will minimize, what you're saying will minimize the ability to stop play as much.
We have someone in the chat, and I'm just reading this. It says that's the existing injury rule. I don't believe it's the case. If you stop play, there's nothing in the rule book right now that says you can't return on that possession.
You have to stay out for one play.
One play. That's
If your helmet comes off, you have to go out for a play. If you receive injury. Now, some guys receive legitimate medical and for like attention, and they're out for 2 or 3 plays. But there's not a rule that's like, if you say, oh, I'm hurt, walk off the field, you can go back in the next play.
Correct.
There's an iconic rule from Stafford's when he separated his shoulder on that one play. They called a timeout, which counted as the one play. So he came back in the next play. So there's not a rule that says you have to stay out for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
I'd rather have to try and tackle Ashton Genty than watch people fake injuries in a football game. I'd rather be a Hugh Freeze quarterback than watch people fake injuries.
100 reps in Oklahoma. How many times do you think you're getting Genty on the ground?
None.
0?
1v1?
Zero.
1v1.
0.
Hey, you got the pads too. He can't really run around you.
1v1. I would go somewhere between 5 to 8.
And here's the deal. Injuries are turned on.
Yeah, none.
Injuries are turned on. I think
Probably
I got him. If I don't get him in the first 10 reps, I'm not getting him. Because
Yeah.
the first 10 reps, I'm seeking.
Yeah, it's got.
I'm a missile.
I gotta go like 3 for 10 in the first 10. If I'm
Medics got to be on call.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm either breaking my neck or we're probably going to take out a knee.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying none.
That's
How-
my only chance.
how
I'm
long
not
has it
unzipping. He going to run right over.
How long has it been since you've like taken a football hit?
Ooh, that would have been my senior year against Greenville.
How many years ago
And
was that?
That would have been 2017.
Dang, so 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years since I've taken contact.
Ooh.
I did total a truck right after my career. Does that count?
I mean, that's definitely.
I got hit driver's side.
Yeah, that's definitely like a football esque hit, but I'm talking like you're in pads, you're colliding with someone.
That was the moment where I was like, ooh, that sport's pretty wild. I got into a car accident, driver's side totaled, all the airbags went out, off, woke up the next morning. Good as new.
Fine.
Good as new. And I was like, shit.
Been doing this for 10 years.
Football bad. No, it's a great sport. It's a great sport. Let your kids play. Red shirt, pandemonium, boys. It's going nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very curious as to why this hasn't happened before, because it's very new and very recent. And it is a very recent trend. Like I said, we're having announcements / declarations of red shirting with intentions to transfer. And that's the terminology from all these agents that are putting it out. Transferring or redshirting with intentions to transfer. Okay, I've seen it over and over again from the homie Pete Thamel getting all these messages of propagandation from agents as we make up words on the channel. Which brings us, and most of these situations, guys, they are players who are either not playing or they're players who have lost position battles, most of which are the same case, right?
Yeah.
Most of these guys are not playing. They're not seeing a future to play at that school. So they're saying, hey, coach, you're not going to play me the rest of the year. I am redshirting, and I am entering the portal, which brings us to our case today, which is the man Jackson Arnold out there at Oklahoma. Sorry, I'm over here trying to find this article instead of reading. But basically, Brett was asked about this today with the idea that, Jackson might be redshirting and with intentions to enter the portal. Let me read this to you. Quote, he wants to be the starting quarterback at the University of Oklahoma. I feel it's only right to give Mike the opportunity, a chance to be the guy and have a body of work. He continued, it's been discussed between us. What was told Jackson is if we put you in, it's because we need you to help us win. So I guess what we told Jackson was, if we put you in, it's because we need you to win. We certainly are sensitive to everything, said Venables. We're not sitting with our head in the sand and naive to what it is, but he's a great teammate and he wants to be the starting quarterback at the University of Oklahoma. If you were Jackson Arnold's agent, what would you be telling him right about now? By the way, I read that terribly.
CTE brain.
Yes, we'll blame it on that.
I don't know. This is a tough one because I think that there's definitely a possibility where you end up back out there where they need you again this season.
Yeah.
And you're still young in your career, so I don't feel like there's this urgency to save any eligibility for yourself. I don't feel like you need to kind of cap on this year so you can make sure you have more on the tail end of your career. But and going off that too, what you put on tape this year wasn't exactly great for Oklahoma. So I don't feel like you have a whole lot of momentum going into this. I feel like you would have more momentum if you just went through the whole season, played it out, and then at the end of the year, if you want to make a decision to leave the program, I feel like you would be a more enticing prospect at that point than you would be right now.
I think there's a level of PR that needs to go on here, and I'm talking to everybody. This ain't just Jackson. This is all of you young men. Why can't you just go into your head coach's office and tell him that, hey, I have intentions to transfer. I'm going to stay here, practice, develop my skills the rest of the year. I would like a red shirt. Now, I know the options are what Shane Beamer did to that young man that did this exact thing. You are opening yourself up to the football coach looking at you and go, oh, you're halfway out, then you're all the way out. Get the hell out of here. If that's the case, that's fine. But I think there is a level of public relations management that could be done in a lot of these situations. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I think a lot of this is already going on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure.
I think there's a lot of situations in college football right now where guys they're already in the midst of taking their red shirt, and it's just not been publicly announced because there's no need to talk about it. Mm-hmm. What were you going to say, Curb?
I was going to say, yeah, I'm sure this happens all over the country in many Power 4 programs that players do come in and say, hey, I'm going to practice here, but for the sake of, staying with the team, committing to this team, committing to the roster, committing to you, I'm still going to practice. I'm still going to do this, but I am going to be fielding options. And I mean, that they're talking to other teams, even though they're not supposed to. So
I think that's what most of these declarations with intentions to enter the portal, I think most of this is just trying to get your name at the top of the free agency pool early as possible. For a lot of these guys, it's why the agents are doing this. And that's my one question is why haven't we seen this before? This was able and possible the moment one-time transfers were available back in like 2020. As soon as COVID hit, this was a possibility for every athlete that wasn't getting playing time everywhere. No, coach, you're not running me out on special teams when I'm a third stringer. No, I'm taking my red shirt. I'm saving this year. You're not playing me. I'm moving on. Yeah. Now, a lot of this wasn't available because most people take their red shirt their true freshman year, right? But some of these guys that have been playing early and then don't get a chance to play, this is an opportunity, and it's always been there for you. It's just weird to just now see this.
I guess it's just now this because changes are coming to college football. This feels kind of like a last-ditch effort of, if I'm going to capitalize on entering the portal, someone recruiting me, someone offering me some funds to come play for their football program, this feels like it might be my last opportunity.
Facts. All right, did you guys see that Dan Lanning had a rule change?
We also had a super chat from Quentin, I believe.
What's
it
up?
Was. Quentin, I can't see the message right now.
It just says God's work. Shout out to the crew. Yeah. Appreciate you there, Quentin. Lanning had that rule change, the 12-man penalty. I saw a report from Thamel today that said by the end of the week they are passing the rule change to have this 12-man rule not removed, but they're going to change the penalty in the sense that they're going to reset the clock back to where the play started at, and if the team wants to decline the penalty, they have the option to do so. So it becomes a free play for the offense like it should be.
Right.
I think this is so funny because in the moment when it happened, I was sitting there watching the football game with my dad, and I was like, there's no way Dan Lanning had 12 players running the football field
on his sideline
after a timeout.
Yeah.
There is no way that just happened. And I was of disbelief that just unfolded. I was like, there's no way that just occurred. So then when he said, yeah, we 100% did it on purpose. One, what an incredible coaching move, because the other sideline clearly had no idea how the rule worked, but you did, and you used it to your advantage, and it worked for you. And two, like, the fact that you're forcing a rule change, I mean, you capitalize on the most important moment possible.
I think, and I don't think this, I know this, people who are great at what they do, they seem to have more time in the day than everybody else. And I don't know how. And maybe it's an organizational ability. Maybe it's a logistical thing where they just line their day out so perfectly. And maybe an ADD, CTE brain like myself will never be able to do this. But my God, that video of him today smirking when answering that question and talking about how many different simulations they've gone through, that is obsession. Mm-hmm. That's what that is. And that is a prime example of why it pays to be obsessed.
Do you think that Lanning probably shouldn't have admitted that this was intentional?
Nah, I think Lanning realized very, very quickly that he blew the top on the rule, no different than Vrabel did in the NFL a couple years ago. Once one guy basically wins a football game or sways a football game, taking advantage of a loophole in the rule system, that rule system has to get changed as soon as possible.
That's fair.
Plus, you put it out there, so now nobody can use it against you because now it's going to be changed.
Bingo. Brilliant. Very, very smart football
coaching.
man. All right, on to our Week 7 predictions. We got a lot of them here this week for you guys. I did that twice.
Yeah.
I even put it in the thumbnail. You're not alone.
Oh, dang.
Well, it's because we're going into Week 7 of the NFL.
And that Week 0 be messing with folks, and that bye week be messing with folks. So, yeah.
Most teams are playing their 7th game, but you're going into the 8th week of the season.
Maybe
Week 8 of college football. We've got predictions for you. Let's start it out with Notre Dame at Georgia Tech. Now, this is a neutral site game. This game is going to be played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Boys, I got some stats for you. This football game is all about which defense can punish the opposing team's quarterback more when they inevitably run that joker. These two offenses rely not solely, but mainly on the quarterback run game. Did you guys know that these two quarterbacks have combined for 127 carries through 7 games entering tomorrow or Saturday's contest?
A lot of carries.
62 totes for Haynes King for 353 yards, 65 totes for the Iron Man Riley Leonard for 405 yards. Both of these offenses rely really, really heavily upon the run game. I think Notre Dame's defense is just too much. Give me Notre Dame 24, Georgia Tech 20.
Yeah, Notre Dame's been playing good football ever since they lost in Northern Illinois. I know the opponents are what they are, so I understand that. But Notre Dame has been putting up points. The offense has not been an issue for them. Georgia Tech has kind of we've known more about Georgia Tech now since they beat Florida State. We know that your offense is going to be able to put up points, but we also know that your defense is going to give up points throughout this football game. So with that being known, I think that I'm just going to go ahead and think that Notre Dame is going to take care of business. I think that Georgia Tech's offense is going to be able to keep it close. I think they're going to be able to keep it within one score. I just don't think you have a defense that is going to be able to stop this Notre Dame offense, stop Riley Leonard for enough time of this football game for you to get the win. So I'm going Notre Dame 33, Georgia Tech 27.
There's a cycle that we always fall into with Notre Dame football.
Bicicleta?
No, kind of. Where you start the season, everyone says, oh, this team's overhyped. They win a couple of games. They lose a game they absolutely shouldn't, and everyone writes them off. Oh, here's Notre Dame.
Golden
They're
Dome
terrible.
special.
Yep. But the problem is somewhere in that cycle, Notre Dame wins, and just keeps winning until they get to a game of substance, and they absolutely lose it. And we say, that we were overrated, like they said. We're in the cycle where Notre Dame just keeps winning games right now. This is going to be a very Notre Dame-esque win for them where they just kind of lean on Georgia Tech. They don't look that impressive, but they also don't ever seem like this game's in doubt. I have Notre Dame winning this game 34-21 just because I think they're the more physical team. I think they're a more talented team, and I think they're well equipped to stop this Georgia Tech offense, which is predicated on the run.
2 more super subs. This one from the anti. I think it says egged here. Go Dogs. Appreciate the super sub. And then Billy Abstinence says Brooks, J. Will, and Kirby equal the Deans of Ball Knower U. Also the best 3-piece band since Blink-182. Did they sing Closing Time?
No, that's Semisonic.
I mean, similar vibes, no?
Not really. Blink-182 is like, I'm trying to think of a song you would know by Blink-182. What's My Age Again?
Nope. Is that Stacy's mom?
No, that's Fountains of Wayne.
Similar vibes, no?
I mean, yeah, it's all like that 90s alt punk pop, I guess.
Huh.
Adam Song.
I think I know that one. If you played that one, I would know that one.
Yeah, they have a lot. There's definitely songs.
Definitely
you know
heard
by
Blink 182 music.
Yeah. All right.
Rock Show.
Love the comp.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah.
Blink 182 is nice. Shout out Travis Barker.
I was thinking more like Migos territory.
Migos.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
You know? Outkast was a foursome, right? Didn't they have a female? It was three men and a female that would occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, football talk. We're all on Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Oh, all the small things.
There you go.
That
All
was off the
small
Enema of the
things.
State album.
Truth.
That's right.
Yeah. Good job, Blink-182. South Carolina at Oklahoma. Sneaky good game?
No.
No? Sneaky ugly game?
I mean, it'll be
Saying
close.
Sneaky close game
It'll be
because
close
neither of these
game. I don't know
offenses
if
are
it'll
worth
be
the shit.
good.
I say it's not a sneaky good game because it is just. I think it's going to be some painful football to watch. I think that you have an offense in South Carolina that feels like they're figuring things out, but they're also not because they're still turning the ball over way too much. The Norris Sellers had 3 turnovers against Alabama. They have the 5th most turnovers surrendered in the entire country right now, while also Oklahoma is forcing the 4th most turnovers in the country right now. So you got polar opposites facing up against one another.
Sure. Lenore Sellers is going to turn the ball over.
It's fun to watch.
But can Oklahoma do anything with it when they get it?
And that's why. So this is why I'm saying I think Oklahoma is just going to defense their way to this win. I think they are going to beat South Carolina. It is at Oklahoma as well. I just a team that turns the ball over that much, you're giving an offense, even if it is really bad, even if it is really porous, you're giving them way too many opportunities, in my opinion, for them not to score points. I got Oklahoma winning 17-14.
The chat leaning into my purposeful mistake. Okay, it's 4 people. We know it's 2. Go ahead.
Right. Dude, I'm doing damage control in here. I can't be getting the doesn't know
Guilty
music
by
allegations.
association?
Yeah, I can't be getting the doesn't know music.
Those are my
allegations.
boss's takes.
Yeah. But no, we all know this is gonna be a defensive game. This is going to be which offense can suck less at some point, maybe make something happen, maybe get an explosive. I trust Oklahoma's defense a little bit more than I trust Auburn's or South Carolina's, excuse me. I looked
USC
wrong.
Junior? Yeah, you almost did it.
Almost
Don't do
did
that. Don't do that. That's disrespectful.
Yeah, I wasn't going to disrespect them. But the thing I keep getting hung up on is Lenore Sellers loves the fumblerooski.
Oh, yeah.
And Oklahoma is going to take advantage of that, I think. It's also the fact that it's on the road for South Carolina. You're probably not going to get as many opportunities. I'm leaning Oklahoma in this in a defensive juggernaut game, 20-13 style.
20 to 13 style. Am I crazy for thinking that, yeah, Lenoris is going to turn the ball over, but South Carolina can manufacture 4 or 5 explosives enough to flip the field in this game?
I mean, yeah, they showed that last week.
Yeah.
Turn the ball over 3 times, you dang near won the football game.
And that's a much better offense from Alabama. Now, they turned them over.
Yeah.
Give me South Carolina 17-14 in this game. However, caveat, I'm going to take both. I'm gonna put some money on both of these, black and red.
Okay.
You ready? Give me 17-14 South Carolina, the win on the road. However, there's a very strong possibility that they get Ole Miss again and score 3 points.
Yeah.
And this game's 9-3, and it's just straight up ugliness. I think it's going to be
South
ugliness
Carolina
no matter
Mississippi State game. What was it? 3-2 was the final score back
Something
in
like that.
2007 or whatever.
what. Something like that.
Give me that. Just
Oogle.
It's gonna be the type of game where some Big Ten fan puts a screenshot of the score and goes, "But when Big Ten does this, it's because they have bad offenses."
Miami at Louisville. Louisville's sneaky, the quietest, decent 4-2 team in the country.
Yeah,
They've got a
definitely.
1-score loss to Notre Dame on the road. They've got a 1-score home loss to the Fighting Stangs out from SMU. And then 4, bad football teams they beat plus Tech. Sneaky good 4-2 football team. This better be the only sneaky good football team left in the ACC not named Clemson, because Miami don't play another one of them. This is the only test, guys, or possible test left on the schedule for this Miami football team. Florida State at home, Duke at home, at Georgia Tech, Wake at home, at Syracuse.
Oof.
It's real murderer's row for these football teams after this in the ACC. So if Louisville don't have the best chance to beat them, I don't know who it is, except I don't see it. Miami gets it right again, 34-20. Miami wins this ball game.
I think it's an evenly matched football game, but Louisville's averaging 36 points per game. Neither team has really given up a bunch of points. They kind of average allowing right under 20 points per game. So I think that on paper, this looks like a pretty even par game. Miami and Louisville probably going to shot for shot in this one, kind of going back and forth a little bit. But this, to me, feels like it's too perfect of an upset to call out on Miami, especially considering that the last 2 weeks they've had 2 close calls. It feels like they're on the verge of getting got. Louisville, maybe this sneaky good team. I just think it's too perfect for it to happen. I'm taking Miami 30, Louisville 23.
No, I've talked about this before. The ACC sold its soul so that it could prop up the one team that has a Heisman finalist and some potential to be a playoff team. I've put a hex on Miami. The curse is here. Louisville is winning this game. Give me the Cardinals by 1 million. Give me the Cardinals by a gajillion. I don't care. Louisville wins this game.
Lean in, baby.
I hate Miami.
You know what? You might have swayed me. I'm just kidding. Miami's winning this game. But hey, Louisville, sneaky good. Sneaky good, even though they only beat Virginia by a score last week. Don't pay attention to that. Don't pay attention
People are
to
saying
that.
Virginia might be sneaky good.
People are saying Virginia, sneaky
I think
good.
that's just our way of saying, can somebody else in the ACC be good? We'll just keep saying, sneaky good maybe? Maybe?
Maybe.
Please, someone be good in this conference.
UNC, 3-5 right now. Sneaky good?
Any
Was
given
not-
Saturday?
Was not a get off the mat game.
No, it's not a get off the Mac
Yeah,
again.
they need to. No, I'm not going to say that. Mac Brown's a legend.
Oh, man. All on Miami except for you, Curb.
Yep.
All right, ride
Hex
them
is
Cardinals. Ride them Cardinals. All right, Auburn at Missouri. Man, this got 31-17 or Missouri pulling away late written all over it.
I'm glad you have some type of confidence predicting this game.
You don't know
Yeah,
nada?
I have
I
zero
have
confidence.
Vegas don't either.
Zero.
Vegas don't either. That line is ugly.
What is it?
I think it's Missouri favored by 4.
Yeah, I zero confidence whatsoever trying to predict this game. And this will go ahead and tell you how much confidence I have trying to predict this. Auburn is just a polarizing football team at this point. Don't really know what you're going to get from them. Missouri, kind of the same thing. You get the crap beat out of you by Texas A&M, but hey, you look good against UMass. Offense kind of rolling. Luther Burden, Brady Cook, you're looking like you're supposed to. I have no idea what to do with either of these football teams right now other than I'm going to lean in and say that Missouri and the offense and the better players on that offense are going to get the job done in this football game. So, yeah, I got Missouri winning 24-13, I guess.
Just
Yeah, this is probably the hardest game to assess and analyze because on one hand you have a team that, for the most part, has had somewhat of an efficient offense. It's just in the blink of an eye, any progress they made can be taken away because they have a turnover. And that's played out multiple times, and that's lost them multiple games this season. So that's very hard to see. On the other hand, you have a team like Missouri that's in unfamiliar territory, honestly. They came into the season with national title aspirations, playoff hopes, kind of higher up than expectations than they've ever had before. And they've gotten punched in the mouth repeatedly. And I don't know how they're really responding to that. And I don't think they know how they're responding to that either. Auburn is in unfamiliar territory, or excuse me, Missouri is, but Auburn's desperate. Hugh Freeze needs a win. They need something to build momentum. Honestly, to save this season might be to kind of save his job or save it from warming up at least.
Mr. Yellowwood's written 4-year checks.
That's true, but to save it from at least Hugh Freeze being a name on the hot seat going into 2025.
Oh yeah,
So I think,
save it from next year, having actual realistic standards.
Yes.
Which, by the way, he kicked all realistic standards to next year, anyways. So if that fan base holds his feet to the fire, I'm not gonna blame him. I'm not gonna blame them at all.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Auburn in like a 26-24 game. I just think that Missouri is in a position where they don't really know what they are. They don't really know what their goals are. Are we still a national title competing team? Are we just kind of one of these, hey, we're a top 15 program, we're really good? Auburn, on the other hand, is we need to win this game.
Eli Drinkwitz is definitely putting a note in Peyton Thorne's room this weekend and saying, "Don't turn the ball over today, dipshit." Inciting Hugh Freeze.
They're gonna mark the walls in cow shit. No turnovers. Oh man, that's tough work. I got Missouri 34-24. I want to address a super chat. This comes from Joey. Can you guys speak on the new NIL rules and the direction college football is heading? Super conferences? ? The super conference bid got its nixed this week or last week when the SEC and the Big Ten agreed that they'd be playing regular season crossover games and basically making their own super league within the current structure. So with them aligning like this, they have basically let everybody know, hey, we are the super league. Y'all are not going to create one and split our leagues up. We like the way the structure is now because we own the structure, all right? And they're the biggest power shakers in this sport. They're going to continue it that way. As far as where we're going with the new NIL rules and where the world of college football is ultimately going, I've been on the record, and I've talked to other people around the world of college football, and they've kind of confirmed this as well. We're going back to the old school bag drop method. What's going to ultimately happen nowadays is, yes, the national letter of intent has been removed, but you're basically going to, not basically, you're going to get an employment contract. And with that employment contract is going to come some type of set salary for your name, your image, and your likeness. In exchange for your employment status, you will get a salary. Now, how do we go about acquiring really good talent? Now that everyone's got this base set salary, how do we go about incentivizing commits? Well, we go buy them. How did we go buy them back in the day? We bought them with cash installments. You will return to the cash bag man. All right. That's what the world of recruiting will go back to for elite prospects. No longer will it be about, hey, we'll promise you we can give you $8 million when you get here. Nowadays it'll be, you'll get $250,000 a year, whatever your set salary is from the NCAA, or whatever it comes out of the House versus NCAA lawsuit and settlement, whatever governs the sport of college football, whatever that set salary is. On top of that, you will get your cash installment.
You have another super chat from 910.
I'm assuming you're smiling because this is something funny.
No, the chat's found their new angle, and it's to make music jokes about you, so it's kind of enjoyable.
Oh, that's nice. My chat is a little slow right now, so I can't see it.
Brooks, please listen to Aquamini by Outkast tonight. I'm begging you.
Okay. I will take care of that for you. Is that 910 Cooper?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an OG. That guy's been here from day one and is a heavily active member of that chat. Appreciate you guys for being there. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. The big one. Third Saturday in October. 'Tis this weekend. Okay. First time back in Neyland since 2022. 52-49 absolute shootout in Neyland Stadium. The caffeine's hitting. Why do you think I did it?
Can you do one more time?
I'll tell you what. Bama is a really bad defensive front to be going up against when you're struggling to protect your young quarterback. When you're struggling to do anything positive at the offensive line positions, particularly left tackle, this is a really, really bad unit to go up against. And say what you want about Alabama's defense. This front six, particularly this defensive line, is as deep as they've ever been and as talented as potentially they've ever been. They rotate a bunch of fresh bodies. So this idea that they're going to wear down against this Tennessee attack, I don't foresee that happening. LT Overton's playing elite football, 22 and 23. Peter Woods and I think James Smith is not Peter Woods. He's with Clemson. James Smith is 23. 22 is LT Overton, excuse me. And then they got several other big defensive tackles on the interior that are playing really good football. The edge rushers are playing good football as well. 34's got to stop roughing the quarterback, but other than that, the guy's getting after the Q. I don't exactly expect Tennessee's offense to suddenly find life on the offensive end. So it's not only a bad matchup on the offensive side for Tennessee, it's a really bad matchup on the defensive side for Tennessee as well. If there's one thing this defense has struggled with so far against Power 4 football teams, it's the inability to win the 50-50 ball and the inability to limit explosives in the passing attack. If there's anything that Alabama's offense does really, really well week in, week out, it's exactly that. Give me Alabama 31-27, avenging that 2022 road loss.
I think this is a great matchup because both teams are in a very similar position of 2 weeks ago, you lose a football game you feel like you shouldn't have, and then the next week you follow that up by another sputtering performance, and it's kind of plucked out some of the knots or maybe some of the strings in this program of yours where things are unraveling, it feels like. The winning team is going to get a massive momentum boost, a massive boost of confidence coming out of this because both of these programs need it, but only one of them is going to get it out of this. This game ultimately boils down to me of Tennessee's offensive issues. I don't know that this is a matchup where this is just going to ultimately get figured out for you, but the good news is for you, Alabama is susceptible to giving up the explosive plays in the passing game, so you might be able to find an avenue there where you do find success. But I still think that Alabama's offense is going to be a little too much for this Tennessee defense. I think that they still continue to be explosive. Alabama's offense has not been the problem over the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to say that Alabama gets to win 33-24.
Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music.
Attaboy.
Go ahead.
On paper, from what we've seen,
Really testing my card out here.
It's not your card. It's the music knowledge.
I'm either way. Go ahead.
It's not the card. Don't be so defensive about the card now.
I know. Go ahead.
On paper, Alabama's their team. I think their offense is proving to be more explosive through this point in the season. But there's one thing that I'm getting really hung up on. I don't think Kalen DeBoer is ready for an SEC schedule.
Uh-oh.
Think about it. Think about it. The last 3 games. It took a once in 100 times start against Georgia. 28 points. How often does that happen? Let's be fair.
True.
And you squandered that in one half. You came out against Vanderbilt on the road, got pushed around and lost. Then it took everything you had to beat South Carolina at home. And you're telling me that this team's going to go into Neyland Stadium with this coach who's, by the way, saying, hey, I was at Washington.
That's not real. That's not a real quote.
I know.
Oh, God. It's like, you fell succumb to the internet.
Here's the problem, though. Then think about this. I'm going to list 4 games.
4?
At Auburn, at Texas A&M, at Mississippi State, at Kentucky. Can we all agree that Texas A&M and Auburn are the 2 hardest games on that schedule last year?
Yeah.
That Bama played on the road.
Mm-hmm.
We know how the Auburn game went. They beat Texas A&M by 6 points on the road. Tough road environments these Alabama teams, and especially Jalen Miller, haven't had lots of success in. So I'm leaning towards the fact that I think this environment in Tennessee, the fact that Jalen Miro has kind of shown you that he's more mistake-prone than we thought he was at the start of the season, and the fact that I'm not necessarily sure Kalen DeBoer teams are ready for the physicality of the SEC, I'm kind of leaning Tennessee on that because I think they're going to be opportunistic. Now, obviously, it requires hitting your deep shots, having some form of protection at the line, and it's a big ask because we've seen on tape that they're not necessarily great at that, but my gut's telling me Tennessee wins this game. And oh, by the way, Heupel teams start fast against Alabama. In 2021, when they had Hendon Hooker, they started out 14 points in the first quarter. 2022, they had 21 points in the first quarter. 2023, last year, they had 13 points in the first quarter. They won the first half all the time, the exception of 2021. They were trailing 21-14. So they start fast. It's been the second half. I think if they can start fast in this game, they'll be able to take advantage of that and beat Alabama.
Score?
It was something, honestly, I had Tennessee winning this game by 2 scores. I have them.
Wow.
Give me Tennessee 34, Alabama 24.
10 points, not two. Yeah, it's just 2 scores. But when
it's 2 scores,
14 is different than 10.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. That's a late score in the fourth quarter. 2 minutes left, and then they get the ball back and can't figure out a 2-minute drill. All right. That are all the predictions. Now, there's a possibility for a very interesting conclusion to the Big Ten schedule. I'm very curious to see how this is going. Or where this is going.
We all talked about how, the start of the season, man, it's so good that we're getting rid of divisions and all these conferences because now we don't have to watch the shit show that is the Big Ten West, where we get all the way to the end of the season and we go, you know what, the two teams that are playing the conference title game aren't even the two best teams in the conference. How funny would it be that if we got to the end of the season this year and it was Championship Saturday and Brad Nesser and Gary Danielson are doing the introductions and it
sounds so weird.
Let's get ready for the Oregon Ducks versus the Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Because think about it. They play Nebraska this week. You can win that game. You might not even have to beat the Ohio State game at the end of the year because if Ohio State loses to Penn State, they're in 2 losses already. They're in such a hole. And by the way, Illinois, Nebraska, all these other teams are still very much in the hunt. Now, it's halfway through the season. These teams still have a lot of hard games to play. But we're in a world where there's a very real chance that we got rid of all these divisions so that we could get, the 2 best teams, and you still end up getting stuck with a Oregon versus Indiana or Oregon versus Nebraska or even a Penn State.
Indiana's got to play Ohio State, right?
Correct.
And what happens if they lose that and win out? And they're 11-1 with a loss to Ohio State. They don't play Oregon.
You need Ohio State to then lose to Penn State. Which they travel to Penn State. That's obviously going to be a whiteout game. So, and we just saw they can get got. So, it's going to take a lot. But there's a reality out there where you get just some middle-of-the-road Big Ten team.
We got a big super chat from Hey, I'm Brim. And I don't mean to speak for you, Kirby, but I think I'm going to answer this for you. What does, quote, not ready for an SEC schedule even mean? Isn't the loss to Vandy because of either fatigue from UGA or simply underestimating Vandy's offense and quarterback? As the chat kind of already hit you with, I think you've already answered your question within your own question. What does not being ready for the SEC look like? Not understanding what Kirby Smart has always used as coach speak or sounds like coach speak. And Saban always said this, you're 1 week away from humility in this conference and you have to get up every single week. And you have to have the ability as a football coach to get your guys up every single week. And by the way, this is something he struggled with to an extent last year at Washington. That random night where they're struggling with Arizona State in the rain. Like this is, I think there was a close call against another football team.
There's
multiple last year where it's like an up and down performance from an offense and defensive perspective. So yeah, that's what I think you're meaning.
Yeah,
by
and
that.
also,
and by the way, I don't necessarily subscribe to this theory. I think there's a lot more going on than we're just not getting our guys up every week.
Well, I don't even know if it's necessarily that. I also know that playing in the SEC requires a lot of physical stamina. It requires being able to resist fatigue. If you don't go into the offseason with an offseason training regimen that prepares you for this type of physicality that you're going to play in, you're going to get caught lacking towards the back end of these games. Now, you've been able to pull it out in the 2 of the 3, but there's also been times where it's like, why is this even a contest right now? Why does Bama look like they're getting punched in the mouth? You didn't see this in Alabama teams. Kirby Smart, and I know we reference him a lot because we cover him, always references having guys ready to play SEC ball, being in shape, being stuff like that. Are we sure that Kalen DeBoer is utilizing the same things and getting that team ready? It's just speculation for me. And the 3 games that we've seen in the SEC would say no so far.
The one thing I've heard from people that have been in and around that football program is that they certainly do not practice with the intensity and the physicality that they used to. They certainly do not. Okay, so that could be a thing. One source told me they practice like a pro team, which pro teams are notorious for not practicing.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean.
So yeah, I mean, I saw like when your defensive coordinator comes out and says we were playing on our heels. That is, my guys are not prepared. That is his way of saying that, in my opinion. That is coach speak for my guys are not prepared. I told you guys to start the show, we need to find new bait other than Ryan Day in the chat. I did not think I was going to make myself said bait.
Soldier Boy served in Iraq. That's good.
Soldier. We got a whole nother hour coming up, and it's our best one, local hour, coming hot right about now.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
Brooke's the type of guy to put a bag of hot Cheetos in the fridge to cool them down. That's crazy work. First of all, I'm a jalapeno cheddar Cheeto guy.
Good.
I am not a hot fried Cheeto guy.
I love them all, but
Flaming
jalapeno
hot
cheddar.
Cheetos, excuse me.
The jalapeno
always-
cheddar are good.
I was always a Takis guy.
Ew.
Those are good.
Ew.
Public school, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm public school too.
You pay for it later, but they're
to an
good.
extent. Huh?
You pay for it later, but they're
Oh,
good.
yeah, you do. Some color change on the Taki. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little stool talk to start the local out. Love that. All right, we have a loaded one for you. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. We've got a tremendous show. I've got Kirby Smart presser notes. I've got Texas film notes. I've got keys to stopping Texas. We obviously have a Texas prediction. Which Quinn do we see this weekend? We have a fantasy update. My Lord, the Clean Old Fashioned Hate series has moved to the bins. We'll talk a little bit about that. And Kirby is going to hit us with a best bets tonight.
That's right.
On the local hour. Too much to get on with. Which guys, or what do you want to start with today in the local hour, boys?
I feel like it's always good to start presser notes.
All right, let's start with presser notes. Back with a limp, by the way.
Did you ask him about it?
No, I didn't. It didn't
I
seem
would-
right
I
today.
wanna know,
Didn't seem
man.
right today. Talked about Isaiah Bond. Said he's electric and a great release guy. Something I hadn't heard lately out of him. A great release guy. They do a great job, or they did a great job in the portal. He said, I think they took 3 or 4 guys in the portal, 3 of which are certainly playing on a down in, down out basis. On Bond said, twitchy, fast, explosive. This is one I haven't heard, Kirby. Elite body quickness.
Body quickness, huh? I've heard about feet quickness. I've
Do you
heard
think
about
that means like he's shifty? Elite body quickness? Like most people say short area quickness when
Yeah.
they do that. Body quickness is something I haven't heard. Maybe he's even talking about like when he's catching the ball, he's got like really
Yeah.
great hands. Everything about him is twitchy. Maybe that's another way to say this.
like
This
body,
is a
body
new scouting
control.
term.
Almost, yeah.
But it's different than body control. This is twitch in the body.
Right, but like I get what you're saying.
Like George Pickens had body control. He did not have elite body quickness.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whereas like Tyreek Hill has elite body quickness. This is a new scouting term for me. He says Sark is doing a great job having utilized these guys in the past as well as this year. Was asked about practice, said practice has been good, not great, spirited, more snaps than they've played ever before at this point in a season, he said. I think he's talking about defensively at that point. Offensively, certainly playing at a higher pace as well, it seems. So both sides of the football taking more snaps than usual. He's geared down practice a little bit, but did say today was a very fast and physical one. Was asked about comparisons between Quinn and Carson, and he said they're relatively similar. When he watches them, he said he watched them, talking about Texas, during the offseason, and said they don't have – you don't have a full quota of who they are when you watch them during the offseason, but when you prepare for them, you certainly find out more about who these guys are. And he said from an understanding standpoint, these guys are very, very similar. They never have their team in a bad position. They'll always get them out of that bad call and into the right one. These guys are very, very smart football players. From how they play standpoint, I don't think they play very similarly. I think of Quinn as more of a point guard, more of a distributor, and I think of and his ability to extend plays, and it almost looks like he's running through the lane ready to hit a floater. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Carson is I don't even have a basketball comparison for him. He's just a methodical quarterback. He's a very pro style, processor at the position, a very accurate throw over the football. I've always said I think Carson is what Peyton would have been if Peyton grew up learning how to throw a football like they do nowadays, and learning how to play the position with a level of athleticism and a level of off-platform throws and a level to extend and create. He thinks like a Manning from the head up. He plays the sport like a Manning from the head up, in my opinion. Georgia versus Georgia Tech moved to the bench, said he didn't really know that. I'm calling cap on that. They've done a great job making that game tighter, is what he said. They're doing a great job at Georgia Tech, recruiting, developing, coaching, getting that program back to where they are. So that game's always very, very physical and a tough one. Ellis Robinson was asked about the hardest parts of playing as a freshman. Said ability, right? You have to have the ability to play as a freshman. And he said he's certainly blessed in that area. Doubled down on the had great weeks of practice. Also talked about taking notes. Said the last several weeks during practice and during meetings, this guy is really, really hammering the notes, and said his attention span and his what was the word that he used? His stamina. His stamina has gotten much better. And people are saying, oh, stamina. So he's practicing longer and he's practicing harder. Yes, but his mental stamina, his mental ability to hold on has certainly increased as well. Was asked about Jordan Hall and Jared Wilson. Said Jared Wilson's back practicing. Jordan's done more than he has in the last 2 weeks. I don't think Jordan Hall sounds like he's quite ready to go. We'll obviously find out more about that tomorrow night when we have the official SEC injury reports come out. Was asked about being an underdog. Said he has not addressed that at all and didn't know. Said he doesn't look at gambling lines. All he cares about is one question. What do we have to do to play our best? So some coach speak for you there. Was asked what he learned in the bowl game the last time he played Texas. And he said he learned that this is – and they haven't had this situation. They had this last year during the Orange Bowl where it's a quote-unquote meaningless game, right? Mm-hmm. You're not playing for a national title and guys are in or out. And they decided after that Texas game there was going to be nobody lingering that was halfway in, halfway out. If you wanted to go, then go. Go now. You're not going to stick around. If you want to play, then you're going to play. And he said since then in those games, right, in Baylor in 2019 and in this last year's football game in 2023, been that long. Or 2020, been that long since you play one of the meaningless bowl games. That's incredible. Said during that time they've learned, like if you're going to play in this game, you're going to play. There's going to be no half in, half out. Tons of players in Texas. Was asked about recruiting that state. Said so many good players. Mentioned that the coaches are paid more. Indoor facilities, just investments overall into the sport at a much higher rate. Actually, likened it to Georgia. And how getting a player out of Texas is very similar to getting a player out of Georgia in the sense that they're going to come in, they're going to be professional. Football means more where they came from. They understand the importance of it. But not only that, they're over-recruited. Like, in Texas, guys are going to be recruited heavily. In Georgia, good football players are going to be recruited really, really heavily. Said used to, the connection pieces to Texas high school football players were either a relationship, right? They have a family member that lives in the state of Georgia or near Atlanta, or maybe there's a connection to the staff, or maybe there's a connection to the high school staff, right? Things like that. And used to, guys want to get out of Texas and come play the SEC. Well, now that doesn't necessarily exist. There's a much higher barrier to entry into that state nowadays for those guys. Can't lose ideology. Said they don't really care about that, right? This is obviously a can't lose football game from a standpoint of now 2 losses. I don't think this is a can't lose, but it makes you into can't lose mode moving forward throughout the season. He doesn't talk about that. Run game relative to who we play, meaning like, how are you guys doing against stopping the run? He said it's very relative to who they are playing, right? And then went on to say nobody's really dominating running the football right now in the conference unless they're using the quarterback's legs, which is something I want you, stat guy, to run down. Find out who, when you have an opportunity, find out who's leading the SEC in rushing yardage as a team, and then see if they're utilizing the quarterback run. Kirby seems to believe they are. I got a continuance right here on 167. Was asked about Dylan Bell's development and said he's developed a lot, right? Came in as a running back with a different skill set. He's tough. He's athletic. He's great after the catch. Some of the things that we've always alluded to on this network. That's a real dissertation on this rundown coming on right now. Defensive line depth. Said still coming, not injury-free at all. Did you guys know Kristen Miller's banged up?
Mm-mm. Didn't he go out in the Auburn game?
He did, and since then he didn't say since then, but he said that they're not able to give him a full workload even during practice. So basically, everybody that's playing meaningful downs right now for Georgia on that interior defensive line is pretty banged up, except for Nas Stackhouse. Says Stack's been like a real consistent, injury-free, tough football player. Not that the other guys aren't. He's just had the luck of avoiding these injuries. Averaging a lot of yards per carry. I don't know why I wrote that down. He talked about wide zone and talked about how this team is really, really good at it, which you're going to see pop up in my film notes, which led me to ask him, hey, Coach, what makes a wide zone team good at wide zone? And why do wide zone teams, what do they consistently create problems for defensively? Why is it such a hard concept to stop? Football question I was really interested in. And Kirby gave us a very interesting answer. Play the sound for him.
Yeah, Coach, what makes a good wide zone football team or stretch zone football team? And why is it so difficult to stop when a team's good at it?
Well, I have to go a long time into that, and I'd have to give one of your long dissertations that you give about football, and I can't sit here and give that dissertation right now. So, plus, I don't really want to talk strategy, with the opponent. So, I mean, they're good at it, I can just tell you that, and they do a really nice job at what they do. It's different angles. The back's got a different angle. It's got different pressure points. We've had problems with certain runs in the last couple of weeks. Well, they run those runs, but they also run outside zone really well.
In the board ready?
Epic Pen is ready, yeah.
All right, a little dissertation right there. What y'all think about that soundbite? I'm obviously a little biased.
I think it shows obviously that he at the very least has seen your work.
Yeah.
I don't know if it means he's tuning in right now, hey Coach Smart, or if that he's watches it regularly, or he at the very least knows what you do and is aware of it and has seen your work and thinks highly enough about it to give a 30-second answer as to what your question was. So
I thought it was interesting he called them dissertations.
Yeah.
Interesting word choice.
And this is why I think he's watching the show, because it's like 90-second clips on social media. Those aren't dissertations. What I just did on his press notes, probably a dissertation. What I'm about to do on wide zone and what I wanted him to do is a dissertation. So let's go to the board and let's explain why wide zone does indeed create problems.
By the way, Tennessee leads the conference in rushing, 246 yards per game. Nico is averaging about 7 attempts per game.
So yes, they are indeed using the quarterback's legs. All right, here we go. Wide zone. Why does it create problems? Why is it different than most schemes? Why is it, effective? Why is Texas so good at it right now? All right. First and foremost, when we're running inside zone or when we're running gap schemes, when we're really getting downhill or vertically, right? When we're pressing this way and trying to move these guys, we're having to move them against their will. It's not easy in this conference to take a 310-pound defensive tackle, take him off the line of scrimmage, and take him into the feet of the linebacker. On a consistent down in and down out basis, really, really hard to do, right? Really, really hard to do. So why is wide zone so effective? Well, instead of not having to push these guys vertically, now we can work on angles, all right, and we can push them horizontally. All right, so if I were to take Kirby and put him in front of my face and really just work with him square in front of my body, that's going to be a little more difficult than if I got Kirby on an angle and I said, ooh, you're fighting this way, I'm going to push you that way, right? Much easier to move these guys. Now, easier to move them and much easier to create what I call displacement, right? So if I take this nose tackle and I move him a full gap and I have one block that's really, really good, all of a sudden, as a running back, I'm going to see this massive, massive void open up where that displacement was created, right? So the holes get much bigger because we're moving guys laterally, and all it takes is one guy to create that displacement, right? And that displacement will create these big, vast voids in your defense. Also, when this ball is getting stretched this way, you know what it's really, really easy to do as a linebacker, a second level defender? You damn right. It's really, really easy to over pursue. And so now if I have A, movement on the line of scrimmage, aka displacement, or if I have B, a guy that over pursues, now we're adding reasons for these plays to work, right? Boom, we're out the gap, right? We're out the gate. Now, the other reason this is a really, really effective play is it takes advantages already pre-snap of where your voids are as a defense. I know we got a lot going on right here, but defenses are going to stack most of the time that 3-tech away from the running back because that's how they establish strength, right? Most teams, at least. All right, so we have this nose tackle right here, and if our guard pushes him off really, really well, and we get a seal on this backside end, and this will over pursues, then boom, there's the hitter right there. You know who has absolutely gashed teams the last several years when Cody Schrader was on the team? Missouri. Missouri was gashing teams, leading the conference in rushing yards per attempt with wide zone. Now, they were doing it really, really dirtily, in my opinion, by cutting on the backside with the tackle. They would just dive on people's feet and cut, and I didn't like it at all. Texas is asking those first-round caliber NFL Sunday tackles to run their feet and get their head up across the face of defensive linemen, and it's creating a lot of problems. All right, now, my question, if I'm facing Sark, is did they run a lot of wide zone last week because they were playing a 3-down front football team and that tackle didn't have anybody over the top of him so he can immediately go up to the second level? Maybe. All right, but it's something that they've shown on tape for week in, week out, having the ability to do. A little dissertation.
I like it.
All right, I've talked way too long, and I'm getting lightheaded at this point. So there's no way I could run right into my film notes right now. But we need to anyway, so let's do it. Don't think you've faced a wide zone team or at least a team that runs wide zone this well since Missouri, okay? In fact, off the top of my head, I don't know of one. The last team that ran wide zone this well was Alabama with Jahmyr Gibbs. They morphed into a wide zone team because Gibbs was elite at doing it. So it's been a while. It's been a while since you faced one. You're scratching your head for a thought?
I don't know if they ever played Alabama with Jahmyr Gibbs.
They didn't. But I'm saying mentally in this conference, Missouri, Alabama, Jahmyr Gibbs, only teams that are out here featuring the wide zone. The difference with this football team, it's not just wide zone, boys. You're going to have to prepare for the whole book. I call it the menorah run game. And we're going back to the drawing board. We're going back to the board right now because I want to explain this metaphor of the menorah run game. Let's go back to the board. All right. Anybody seen a menorah? You've seen a menorah, right? Now, this was on our film study today. I've already hit this analogy once. But the reason I call it the menorah run game, all right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'd say 7 gaps that we can run into as an offense, right? We got A gaps on both sides. We got B gaps on both sides. We got C gaps. And then we can really attack the flanks and the edges of the gaps of the defense on both sides of the ball. All right, so why do I call it the menorah run game? Because they have abilities and they have run schemes for every single gap and void in a potential defense. I've seen them start the football game against Oklahoma with what I'm calling, what did I call it? A midline ISO almost, but it's not ISO because there's no lead blocker. They're just going to double team whatever, guys are in the middle of this defense right here. They're going to work up to the mic and the wheel, and they're trying to hit that sucker right down the midline of the defense. Midline ISO is, I think, what I called it during the film study. All right, so they have that on the play call, right? They can flip the back over here and run wide zone like we just showed you on that first clip. Oh, by the way, they also run counter like most football teams do nowadays, right? That's a C-gap hitter. Oh, by the way, they also run the old fancy one tackle pull play from Tennessee that they've been running lately, where they block down on the front side, just pull the backside tackle. Oh, by the way, they'll stack in bunch over here, right? And they'll run the end around, all right? Oh, by the way, they'll get in 21 personnel, they'll run orbit motion, return, and they'll run jet on the backside. Does anybody see why I'm calling this the menorah run game nowadays? All right, because they can attack you, they can stretch you, and they can press you in every single possible way. Now, I was asked this today, does every team do this? Hell no. Most teams got 3 or 4 basic runs that they're really, really good at. Georgia's one of these football teams. Georgia, in my opinion, is an inside zone team, a split zone team, a duo team. Those are all versions of zone, by the way. Mix in a little jet, mix in a little end around, mix in a little counter. All right? Texas has got all those and some. Okay, so this is one of the harder preps for a defense just in terms of run fits. And to be honest with you, it's good that there's difficulty there because the passing concepts, despite all the motion and stuff, the passing concepts are relatively fundamental. They're relatively simple when you break them down on tape. What they're predicated on in the passing game, guys, is what is called middle of field open, middle of field closed reads. They are a post with a deep over conceptual offense. They are going to take most of their deep shots, guys, off of those run fakes and run looks that they have. They're going to put the ball into the belly of the back. They're going to turn around, set up in most likely 6 or 7 man pass protections, which means we really only have 3 guys in the route. All right, we're going to get a slot. He's going to be our check down as an offense. Now, why do I call it 2-man concepts, post deep overs, middle of the field open, middle of the field closed offense? Because if the middle of the field is open, all right, We like this deep shot right here. If this safety pulls down on this Dover, we like this post because the middle of the field is indeed open. If the middle of the field is closed, right, if they're in some type of cover 3, or if the middle of the field happens to be closed because they're in some type of middle field closed coverage, put the safety there, put the free safety in the box. Now, guess what, guys? We are reading the Dover off this apex defender. We're either going to make him come down or we're going to make him play over the top. All right, they are a middle field closed, middle field open football team on the offensive side of the ball. It's why you saw Oklahoma in that film study do so much disguised coverage pre-snap, post-snap between changing the looks of what we call mofo and mock, right? Middle field open, middle field closed. We like it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Just gurus. All right. Inside zone, wide zone, counter, one tackle power, end around, jets, trucks. Not a run game that they don't run. All right, not a run scheme that they don't run. I talked about the concepts. They're a post-Dover football team. Here's the key, though. One of the keys we're going to talk about later. You got to get this football team on the ground when they throw screens. They throw a lot of screens like every other modern offense in college football and in pro football. You got to get those guys on the ground. Those cannot be explosives. They've had Isaiah Bond take tunnel screens for 70 yards this year. You cannot have that happen on Saturday at all. They motion to empty usually to run a screen. Okay, they've rarely taken shots out of that over the last 2 football games that I've studied them on. Screen game blocking concepts are magical. Did you enjoy watching that today?
Yeah, it was a fun study.
Not your standard stock block concepts out there, Kirby. I saw them at one point. They got quarters defense from Oklahoma, and they have the X receiver. They're trying to run a swing screen. Right. They have the X receiver pretend to stock block the corner and quarters, have him come up to him thinking he's got to cover him, and then immediately go to the safety. The jet motion guy that they send in motion picks up the corner.
Really?
Yeah.
So who's getting the ball then?
The running back that they swing.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Then they ran pin and pull on a swing screen on the outside. They had the 2 outside receivers blocked down on the 2 defensive backs, had the number 3 receiver loop around both of those guys for the safety that was screaming over the top, and then threw the swing to the running back.
Damn.
Yeah, buddy.
That's fun.
Yeah, buddy. It's why I say every time I watch them, I'm like, good God, I love watching this offense. So fun. You learn so much. The ability to be complex while being simplistic is incredible. It is certainly the most complex prep you'll have all year, in my opinion, from a coach's standpoint, not a player's standpoint. In my opinion, the most prepared you have to be as a player is probably against Tennessee because of the pace, the stretching, the amount of stress that they create due to the pace and the alignment. That's a tough prep for a football player. From a coaching standpoint, this is as tough as it gets because here's the deal. You can prepare as much as you want. There is a possibility that he comes out and he's a completely different human. He's a completely different offense. Oh, this is how we're going to be today. We're going to do it this way because we know you're bad at this. And here's what also compounds the issues, all right? You get into the middle of the football game and this guy's duking your eyes out, and he's got all these other layered concepts. So you got to adjust in the middle of the football game for this guy. You can't just stand 10 toes down. You're going to end up getting beat into a pulp. There's no way in that film that we watched today that Quinn Ewers was 100% himself. I just don't think there's any way. Way too many missed opportunities for a guy that I think is a first-round caliber football player. Left tackle is absolutely legit. He's a first-round caliber football player. The rest of the unit, I'd say, is really well coached. I don't think they're high-end freaks. I think they're a little bit gettable, particularly from guard to guard, for what George has been putting on tape from the defensive tackle perspective. Backs read keys really well. It's something we talked about last night. Gave kudos to Tashard Choice, their running back coach, who I think is the best in the sport right now. 26, the back that's replaced Cedric Baxter. I know they got 3 backs running. I know they got the blue kid. I know they got the freshman from Florida, number 9, that's playing for him. I can't remember the guy's name. It's bothering me right now. Either way, 26 is the dude. You got to stop. This is a really special football player that I don't think college football was necessarily prepared for because everyone knew about Cedric Baxter. Gunnar Helm is this team's safety net. I left him for last. This is the guy that they go to in times of need. This is the guy that they design winners for. I would say Silas Bolden and Isaiah Bond are their most consistent down in to down out reliable playmakers. Those are the guys they design offense for and consistently move the football with. They're trying to kill you with Hunter Helm. They're relying on him to be a safety net, and they're really trying to kill you with number 5, the freshman.
Ryan Wingo.
Ryan Wingo. If Ryan Wingo's got the ball, they think it's going 70 right now. Oof. They think it's going 70. They designed a winner for him. I saw him get 3 opportunities, I think, in that football game, if my memory serves me correctly. One was a double pass where he's 20 yards behind the defensive back. One is an end around. He takes it 60 yards. One is a slant against a blitz. He takes it 65 yards. He's a freak.
Mm-hmm. He's really good.
All right, you guys got keys to stopping Texas?
We do.
Oh, yeah, you got keys. I love that. What are your keys to stopping Texas now that I gave you the full film rundown?
So,
by the way, that film study's up over 13,000 views. Appreciate you guys.
Hell yeah. Good job, guys.
Hell yeah.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you got it.
All right, so the first thing is going to be putting Quinn under stress.
I think I forgot to eat again today.
You think you forgot to eat again today?
A Zen will help with that.
Yes, nothing cures the appetite like a nice Zen.
Just too busy cooking folks on social media. Come on.
I see what you did there. No, I mean, this is kind of a generic how to stop any offense, but putting Quinn under pressure, putting him under distress, getting him off the launch point and creating bad throws that you can take opportunities with, keeping them behind the sticks is always a recipe for success. It's kind of a hack one, but I think it's really going to be one in this. He's not a mobile quarterback, but he's not someone you have to feel threatened by with their legs. So I think
it's the threat to extend that bothers me. When this guy gets outside of the pocket, he's been dialing shots down the field.
Yes, which is why you have to keep him pressured underneath, make him have put people at his feet when he's making throws.
Well, like anaconda rush.
Yes, exactly. Next one I have is hit your layups on offense. You have had a wide open or an opportunity to hit a deep shot every single game you've played in this season. Whether you've hit them or not has been inconsistent. If you're able to hit your layups in this game, you're going to score points. You're going to be able to control this game offensively and win. And then the third one, and this is crucial. This is the most important. No matter what, you have to do this on defense. No busting. No busting on defense. It needs to be a blanket that is bust-free the entire game.
Love it.
Have to.
We have a couple super chats I want to address. Gavin Kane says, Bama fan here, brother. Love the content. Keep grinding. Appreciate you for being here, man. I love the growth. I love to see other fan bases finding us and recognizing this show's talents. I think the other super sub has disappeared on me, but I think I can paraphrase it. I think the note was Georgia is 3-7 on the road versus top 10 opponents in their last 10 games. Maybe it's AP top 5.
I think they lost the last 7, which I don't know if it's true because the last one they played on the road that they lost was 2020 against Alabama. The one before that would have been at Kentucky in 2018. You won that game. So I'm not sure where the 7 in a row is coming from.
It dates all the way back to like 2009.
On top of that, he said, if you guys weren't rooting for Georgia, who'd you root for? I think he just assumed, again, the fandom for me. Fan of good football. I'd probably root for Oregon if I didn't do this job.
I've been asked this question before. I feel like I would have been an LSU fan.
Really?
I like that. I just like everything about LSU.
I would have probably either been a North Carolina fan or...
You don't even like hoops.
Is it the Powder Blues?
It is.
Yeah.
I was also a big Sam Howell fan through high school, so probably North Carolina. But I would not be as passionate about them as...
Your beloved dogs?
That's right.
Keys to stopping Texas. You got any?
Yeah, I do. My first one: win the plays they let you win. When they check it down, when they throw out a screen, or when they're giving you an opportunity to win, an essential especially when Quinn checks the ball down, they're just kind of conceding the play. You got to win those plays. You got to get them on the ground. You can't let those turn into the explosive plays. If you let up some explosives, if Sark gets you on a play, that's one thing. But if they're just throwing the ball short, got to make those plays count. Got to make sure that you get them in tough positions and capitalize off of those opportunities. I'm going to number 2 plays into a stat that I found today. Get off the daggum field. Georgia on third down this year has allowed 14 first downs just off of a penalty. 14 first downs off of a penalty.
That's bad.
It's bad. It's one of the reasons why they're allowing quite a few more first downs this season than they typically have in the past. I mean, we went through 5 of them, it felt like, against Mississippi State, where you had an opportunity to get off the field, committed a penalty, you extend the drive. Can't have that happening against Texas. If you get an opportunity, especially if it results in a play where it's not going to be a first down, stay off the field. Do not give them extra possessions or extra opportunities to go and score against you. And I think it comes down to this. you got to have the best game of the entire season for you on both sides of the football. You got to have your most complete game. You got to have the best game defensively. Your offense has got to be going as well. You have to play your best game to date against Texas.
All right, keys to stopping Texas, keys to the win, I guess you could call it. Got to mix the looks with any quarterback, but especially a Sarkisian quarterback, and especially Sarkisian on the other side. You can't just line up and play football. I was stunned, flabbergasted, borderline calling for the firing of everybody involved to watch Michigan for 4 quarters just say, hey, we're going to play cover 3 today. Let's see how bad you can box our lights out, Sark. And guess what happened? All right, so you cannot just line up and play football. You cannot pull a Michigan. OU showed you can even get away with bust if you disguise coverages. I think that's the very first thing I noticed. Now, granted, Quinn did not play well even when he decided to throw the football, but a lot of the disguise coverages, a lot of the mixed looks created at least hesitation. If we don't create errors, if we don't create turnovers, at very least you have to be able to create some hesitation with this football team with some type of disguised looks and some type of, pre-snap, post-snap disguise. Got to tackle the screens. You hit on it, man. They cannot get easy yardage out on the edges. They want to extend the box. They want to have a portion of the run game out there. You cannot allow those to be anything. I said on the film study, they got to be sub 5-yard plays. We got to get those guys on the ground on 1st and 10 to turn it into a 2nd and 5. Hope we can get into a 3rd and 4, maybe get a sack on 2nd down, create a 3rd and long. But you cannot allow a 12-yard gain and move the sticks on a screen. Like you said, when they check the ball down, tackles have to be made. If they concede, you've got to win. Be prepared to adjust, man. I just got done talking about this. If he finds something that's working, he's going to get right back on the ball and he's going to hit you in the face with it, which opens me up to this. And I kind of planted the seeds for this one last week, and I'm certainly not smart enough to know how to do it. But if this guy's so hell-bent on doing this occasionally, where he finds a play that works, lines right back up on the ball, and runs that sucker again, or comes back to it later out of the same look, is there a way that you can bait this guy into a turnover? Is there a way that I can purposefully give him something only to know? No different than he does. As an offensive coordinator, this is what y'all do all the time. Y'all build layers in. Y'all build plays in that you know a home run's off the back end of it. Right? You build a run look because you know there's a play action shot up off of it. Can I allow something for him? Can I give him something, make him see it because they've got the tablets, and then come back the very next play or the very next possession, show the same exact look against that stuff and know, hey, we've got a total wild card coming for this guy right here.
I mean, maybe. It sounds a little daunting to try and do that defensively, but, I mean, it certainly could happen.
There sounds like so much risk there because you have to know what he's trying to run, not once but twice. To bait the look once and say, okay, he sees what he wants, or we know what he's going to try to attack with this. And then to do it again, say, okay, this is when he's going to attack it and be able to change your defense.
So they got all the analytics in the world on this stuff nowadays. What personnel you're in, what formation you're in. They have it all broke down just like that. I would find his most repeated formation. I would find his most repeated concept. I would wait to see that formation, and I would bait him off of that. That's the only way you can do this. And again, I think it's like you're saying, I think it's improbable. I don't think this is something that you can do. But if anybody can do it,
it's Kirby.
If anybody can do it,
Kirby and
Venables, Kirby. Venables sees it so much and has so much time to prepare for it. How incredible was that clip on that truck toss where those 2 defenders backpedaled on a toss sweep?
I don't know if I can recall watching that happen on film before.
I haven't. Tremendously well coached. I just hope he can get some offense.
Yeah.
Because if he don't, Venables is going down with the ship, and that's unfortunate. Can you bait him? All right, guys. Which Quinn do you think you see this week?
How many versions of Quinn Ewers are there is the question.
2. There's what we got going on right now, and there's what we saw before the oblique strain.
What did we see before, though?
I saw an uber confident football player delivering strikes against Michigan. I didn't see too many misses. Not like we saw against Oklahoma. Dude, against Oklahoma, he's overthrowing guys by like 10 yards.
Yes, I think it's definitely fair to say that the Quinn Ewers that played against Oklahoma probably was not physically 110% ready to play in that game. Maybe also not mentally because you have that, I don't want to get hurt here. I don't want to re-injure something in a really big game when we have Oklahoma and Georgia coming up. But I don't know. There's kind of, and I'm not saying you're doing this, there's kind of this idea floating around the college football world that for the first 4 weeks of the season, Quinn Ewers was Superman. And he looked good. There's no doubt about that. But he looked good against Colorado State, UTSA, a Michigan team that we all established, pretty much came out and said, hey, this is the defense we're running today. We're not going to change anything about it. Stop it if you can, or score on it if you can. And he had no problem scoring on it. And by the way, there were a couple of interceptions that were left on the board against Michigan. So I definitely think that he's going to be more improved from the Oklahoma game because he's had another week of rest. He's had time to kind of recovery, but I'm not convinced that the Queen Ewers we saw against Oklahoma and the Queen Ewers that we saw in the first 4 weeks of the season was some night and day difference.
I think Quinn's one of these players where he's either really, really on, or sometimes it just looks a little off. Like against Alabama last year, that's the best football I think I have ever seen Quinn Ewers play. That is the best. That is the best version of Quinn Ewers I think you could possibly get as a Texas fan. And for him to show up in a big game, that's the best your quarterback could possibly look. And then sometimes you do, and it's hard because he has been banged up so much in his career. He has missed so much time that coming back from injury sometimes, you don't want that to hinder the eval and be like, okay, maybe that's the other side of Quinn Ewers. But because he is banged up so much, then maybe that is just part of the eval now. I don't know. I think that it has been a little bit differing.
Brick's the type of guy to walk around in slow motion.
I don't get that one, honestly. It's funny to picture, but I don't know if I get it.
This one nailed me. Someone said something about me and said, with frosted tips, guilty as charged. I had frosted tips when I was a kid.
Checks out.
Yeah.
Big Backstreet
Instinct was a
Boys.
big thing.
Yeah,
Backstreet Boys,
Backstreet
all that
Boys.
stuff. If you didn't have frosted tips with a pair of Nike Shocks and a 3-button polo, you just didn't have that shit on, my friend. So, yeah. Oh, guilty by that one. But, yeah. Did you have no, you didn't have frosted tips.
No.
That was a little bit past you guys, right?
Yeah.
I
Y'all
mean,
were
there's still.
straight up, all your friends had Bieber flows, didn't they?
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
I did too.
I
had one
was
of those.
never guilty of that.
I went through all the
Neither was
hair
I.
phases except for the well, no, I did have a faux hawk state championship game. Cut one of those in.
Ooh.
Bro, no. 300-pound Brooks with a mohawk? No, it did not look good. I think we've settled in with a forever life hairstyle until my hairline recedes on me.
Yeah.
My barber, I guess I'll know when it's happening because I finally have a barber that I'm sticking with forever. Sorry, Larry, if you're listening. We're on to Ruben. My boy Ruben, who also happens to be my neighbor, my boy Ruben told me straight up, hey, whenever it's time to change your hairstyle, I'll let you know because you're going bald and we're going to have to change it.
That's a good barber.
Yeah, it's a good barber. He's looking out. So the moment that happens, you guys are going to come in here and be like, Brooksy, what's wrong? I'm like, my life's over. My life's over. I got to start lifting weights and taking steroids. Got to get swole.
Stairs will probably enhance the baldness, though, because it increases.
Yeah, but
rapid
once it's
testosterone.
going, it's gone. And at that point,
Yeah.
just get swole. You know what I mean? Just get big. That way you can feel confident about yourself again, like I do with my hair. Feel confident every time I do my hair every morning. And if it leaves me, I'm going to be in trouble. Let's get into Texas predictions, okay? Let's get right into these. Who wants to go first? I don't feel great about it, but I'm going to do it. I'll go first.
I don't want
I'll
to
go
do
first, you
this on
pansies. I'll step up
Tuesday.
to the plate and hit a home run. Texas's defense has certainly been improved, right? At least on paper. They've played terrible offenses. The Lord knows that, right? They have not played a good offense today. However, the line of scrimmage for Texas on both sides of the ball, but we're talking about defense right now. The line of scrimmage for this football team is really, really legit, and they have gotten after the quarterback. They've created havoc through the 7 games. And you can say what you want about, this past defense last year being a vulnerability. They at least made some changes, and those guys are playing better. But those guys don't have to cover near as long this year as they did last year. They're getting after the quarterback at a much higher rate, it seems, to this point in the season. That being said, this Georgia passing attack has been absolutely dialed when their backs are against the wall. And I think their back is going to be against the wall in this football game. There's going to be, from Jump Street, a feeling and a need for Georgia to score. And in that case, this year, they have certainly put up the points when needed to do so. I said after the Alabama football game, I am picking Georgia the rest of the way. Players beat Georgia, schemes do not. However, that was before they got schemed to death last year against Mississippi State. And that certainly scares me. And I'm going to stand on it, though. I'm going to stand 10 toes down, despite the fact that I watched multiple busted coverages happen last year. Give me Georgia, or last week, give me Georgia, 38-35 in this game. I think the offense wins it.
You want it or me?
I don't even want to do it at all
right.
on Tuesday, man.
It is tough doing these on Tuesdays. I said at the beginning of the season that if there were a game that I thought Georgia would lose, it was going to be this one. I thought they would beat Alabama. I thought they'd beat Ole Miss. I thought they would beat Tennessee. And that feeling, and certainly throughout the season, that has felt like a solid prediction of just kind of how the season has gone on, how you have looked against different teams, and certainly against Mississippi State, watching your secondary kind of struggle a little bit against some different schemes. But I also think that the offense is improving for Georgia. I think Carson Beck is playing with the most confidence he's ever played with his entire career, and I think you're seeing steps in the right direction for the wide receiver group, and the defensive line has certainly helped you a lot in where maybe some of your shortcomings have been on defense with some eye discipline and whatnot. But Texas, I mean, they're playing the best football in college right now. They're playing it better than anybody. They're playing consistently. And Dad always said, trust your gut no matter what. But my gut's saying Georgia's winning on Saturday. I keep coming back to this feeling that Georgia is going to get the job done on Saturday. So that's what I'm going to stick with. Despite what my pre-notions were coming into the season, despite what maybe things are pointing to right now, gut feeling says Georgia wins 38-34.
B. Shaver said, bro, you didn't believe that pick. No, none of us do. None of us feel good about this at all. Go ahead, Kirby. Do you feel good?
I don't feel good anymore after you two picked Georgia.
Oh, Lord. We're homering? All right, I'm going to pick Texas.
Picking Texas?
No. Boy, somebody needs to.
Yeah. You believe in the superstition?
It's too close for a three-panel sweep right here.
Yeah.
They're 4-point dogs, boys. They played like dog dookie on the defensive side of the football just last week. We all saw it.
They sure did.
But
Offense dialed, though. Offense dialed.
College game day is probably going to clean sweep it in one direction. Other people clean sweep it in one direction.
Yeah,
Stay with your chest right quick.
Do we have this much influence on the game? Have we reached that status yet?
The last time I picked Alabama, I heard it.
Oh, so did I.
Not from fans. I heard it. Okay? So yeah.
All right. So
which, your boy was right, so.
But I think too, like picking a game, like what was your score prediction?
38-35. I think it's a shootout.
38-30. So 3-score. Mine was 4-score. I mean, it's a very minuscule 1-score game. So that's essentially saying this could easily go either way, but essentially we think one team is going to come out on top and win that battle.
All right, here's my prediction for it. We've got a team in Texas that is bona fide the number one team, has handled every challenge you've thrown at them, but the question is, have the challenges been that hard?
Ain't played nobody, Paul.
Then compared to a team where Georgia, where the challenges have been a little harder, they've had some easy games, but they've also been wildly inconsistent. You can't really get a grasp on what is this team exactly. We've seen some very high highs, and they look really, really good. We've seen some very low lows, and they look like anyone in the world could beat them. That's a very hard team to predict, and that's a very dangerous team to kind of cheer for when you're going into a road environment that you don't have any familiarity with. You haven't traveled to Austin since 1958, I don't think. So this is going to be a unique environment for Kirby Smart, for the players, for fans, for everyone on this Georgia staff. That doesn't bode well for you. Not to mention you're going against a Sark offense who the last time you faced them had a lot of answers for you in 2020. Things didn't go necessarily well. Now, granted, they had Devontae Smith, they had Mac Jones, they had the whole litany of offensive stars, and your defense held their own in that game. I feel like Texas right now is the trendy pick in this, and I feel like the world kind of thinks Texas is this unstoppable team. What Texas put on display against Oklahoma was nothing short of domination, and the world's going to remember that. What Georgia put on display against Mississippi State was nothing short of concerning and kind of eyebrow-raising, despite the fact that they had 600 yards of offense. I'm riding with J-Will here and saying that you go with your gut. My gut tells me this is the game where Georgia has to get it right. They have to be consistent on both sides of the ball. They have to not bust on defense. They have to make their layups on offense, not miss blocks that potentially could cause 100-yard gains or things like that. I'm going to go with Georgia simply because my gut is telling me to, because I think Kirby Smart wins these types of games, and I don't know if Texas is necessarily as good as everyone wants them to believe, but I could very well see this game going either way. I'll go Georgia 41-37.
So we all see a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I hope this game lives up.
I think it will. I think it absolutely will.
Does.
And at the beginning of the Georgia-Alabama game, it didn't look like that one was going to live up. It ended up living up. So the fact that we all picked a one-score game, I'll spit this stat out. Kirby Smart in his career at Georgia in one-score football games, 19-9. Steve Sarkisian at Texas is 7-12. But I'll say this too: this game gives me 2023 SEC championship game vibes. That's how I'm feeling going into this game. Of Georgia last year went perfect throughout the season. Everybody was calling them probably the only elite team in college football. That's what people were labeling them as. But it felt like a year where there were no complete football teams. It felt like where there wasn't just this one dominant force, that nobody was playing elite football at that time. And Alabama on the other side of it was playing some up and down football. They had some questions. Never seemed like they really put it all together until they went and played against a team like Georgia, a team that looked like everything was going right for them, that they couldn't do anything wrong. That's just kind of my thoughts and my feelings going into this game. Of in a season of college football where we say maybe there isn't a good or great or elite team this year, but Texas seems like that one, and then you have a Georgia team that kind of fits in the other mold. Nick Saban was the better coach against Kirby Smart in the SEC championship game in prior matchups. I think Kirby Smart is the better coach coming into this matchup. That's just kind of where it falls for me.
Fair. All right, let's go to the board and let's do best bets. All right, all best bets brought to you by our friends over at BetUS. It's a tremendous time to be over there with those guys. If you're looking for a new book during this season, BetUS is the place to be, guys. If you use promo code YouTube150, you can get a 150% deposit match on your first deposit and 125% deposit match on your next two, up to $2,000. It's a great time to be over at BetUS. Kirby, you're 13-11 on the year?
15-13.
15-13 on the year in best bets. Your boy is 10-3 right now on the Friday locks. So be staying tuned in to the Twitter feed at Brooks Austin BA and keep that on alerts, because I've been giving out dimes so far this season. Let's head over to the board.
Got 4 picks for you.
Best year I've had gambling, and it's because I'm not putting any money on it. I'm just putting my my public pride on the line every single weekend when we go to the bets. And you can see what happens when I put my real money on it. Kirby loses it. All right, let's go ahead. What do you got?
All right, first game of the slate, I am going Houston plus 6.5 against Kansas.
Houston plus 6. All right, who are they playing?
I was the biggest proponent of the Kansas Jayhawks all season. I said they were a playoff team.
Oh, you're fading your own analysis.
I held out hope for them as long as I could, and they started 1-5 on me, causing me embarrassment. So for that,
you got the hook here, 6.5.
That's what I have. I'm gonna have to fade them. So Houston plus 6.5 against Kansas. Kansas has just shown all season that they're able to win games, but they choose to find ways to try and lose them. I think 6.5 is too many points for them. Next game I've got is.
I want to stop you. People ask all the time, "Hey, are we able to do that?" Yes, this is available in the state of Georgia, so you can get in on the action over at BetUS. My bad. Go ahead.
Next one I have is Northwestern and Wisconsin. I have the over at 41 points here. I understand that these are two offenses that haven't looked exactly great, but the fact is it's 41 points, and in this day in offensive college football, you can pretty much field a team and get 14.
24-21 wins the game here. Wins the over for you.
Exactly. So I like the over in this game. 41 is always just too enticing for me. Next one, I have Oklahoma outright. It's minus 140. We talked about this earlier in the show in the National Hour. I do not trust the North Stars with the football. He's a fumble enthusiast. He is going to give your team opportunities to score. For as Michael Hawkins, I know that he's a freshman. I know that he makes mistakes. He's taken relatively good care of the football. I know he had a bad fumble against Texas last week, but for the most part, he doesn't put it at risk, and he's more explosive with his legs. I like Oklahoma in this. I also think South Carolina's going to be kind of coming off of a big letdown of an emotional game. Oklahoma, you got your ass beat, but you can kind of come back from that a lot. It's a lot easier to come back from an ass beating than it is to be this close to a major upset and not get it.
Is it fair to say Oklahoma's a lot more veteran unit?
Correct.
A lot more experience,
yes.
A lot more together than what's going on in Auburn's locker room right now? All right, what's next?
Final
or
one.
South Carolina, excuse me.
Final one is Indiana versus Nebraska. I've got Indiana minus 6.5. Old Cigaretti himself, I think, covers here. Nebraska is a trendy team. Dylan Raiola, still a freshman quarterback, looks good, but honestly, the role that Indiana's on right now, I trust them. This is the one pick out of the 4 that I don't feel super great about, but I'm still going to ride with it anyways just because the data suggests so.
All right, for those watching at home, Kirby's taking Indiana minus 6.5. He's taking Oklahoma minus 140 on the money line. He's taking the Northwestern Wisconsin over at 41, and he's taking Houston plus 6.5 this weekend. We're going to place all of those bets over on BetUS. We're going to confirm, and then bingo, bango, bongo, we have a chance to win. All right, nice and simple over there with BetUS. Appreciate those guys for supporting us. Again, YouTube 150, 100% or 150% deposit match on your first deposit, 125% deposit match on your second and third deposits up to $100 or $2,000. My bad. This is yours.
Thank you.
Oh, boo, camera one, boo. It's all good. We're not going back to it anytime soon. Should we get a fantasy update?
Oh, damn!
a
I don't
fantasy
even know if I
update?
want to do this anymore.
You
My
don't?
man taking fat ass L's.
Why
Here's the
not?
thing,
Why don't
dude.
you want a
I
fantasy
think
update?
he is.
I know I took it because Arian Cook this week, and dude, that last touchdown with Trevor Etienne, Nate Frazier got stonewalled 2 plays before.
Yeah,
Then they put Etienne and he gets in.
yeah.
Broke my heart. That's the difference maker.
I
in this
fantasy
game.
snubbed you.
You did.
Fantasy
It is
Thanks
what it
to,
is.
Thanks to Micah Morris at fullback, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how about that? They did it twice in that game, didn't they?
Mhm.
I believe they did it twice. Put Micah back there.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
two plays in a row.
I thought I saw it 2 times.
Let's get it over with.
Wow, not very optimistic, Kirby.
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not.
well, let's just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off then, all right?
Yep, see?
All right, ETN had 98 points for Brooks. He had a solid day receiving. He also had a solid day on the
yeah.
ground as well.
yeah.
Branson, before his injury, still got you 21 points thanks to a touchdown.
Shout out.
Arian Smith did his thing, 151 points from the quick man on offense. Defensively, kind of the same old rundown. Stark, 7 points. Michael, unfortunately, got you 0. Munda being out, still kind of hurting you. Aguero, 4. TID, got you 4 points. But it is going to be a little interesting now. Branson's now hurt, and you don't have Rob still. So kind of dwindling down a little bit despite Brooks' early on running back
I mean, ain't
picks.
nobody worried about it.
Oh, not worried about it.
Not me.
Not even having Colby Young, too?
I mean, I got the lead back.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And you have the leading receiver as well.
You
So
bet your money.
you're good right there.
By the way, he's on pace to break a record, right?
He is.
We can talk
Well,
about that after this.
So, technically, he's not on pace statistically.
But neither was Terrence.
Neither was Terrence Edwards. Terrence Edwards, at this point in the season, in his 1,000-yard season, had 361 receiving yards. Arian Smith has 412. So, he's ahead of where Terrence Edwards was, who broke the record, who still holds the record 20 years later, but who knows what happens here. You're also going to likely play in at least 16 games, at least 15 games this season. So,
Yeah.
great chance to break the record for Arian. Who'd have thunk it?
Oh, I forgot to say, Brooks, you finished with 285 points this week from your squad. It was a good week for you to have Nate Frazier. He got you 53 points, being the third guy in the rotation, now number 2. Maybe something that's on the up and coming for you. So maybe that makes a difference in this one. Dylan Bell, solid day, 96 points. Love it, put up 55. Delp, he snagged you 30. Anthony Evans was your big scorer, though. He got you 109 thanks to the explosive run that he had and multiple targets throughout the football game. Defensively, CJ Allen got you 1. Everett got you 3. Jalen Walker got you 4. Dan Jackson got you 5. Chaz Chambliss got you 5. That tallied for 361. Kirby won.
Oh, shit. Dude, I won. Look at him, dude. He's so mad. He's so mad.
Kirby, you're still 2-4 on the
Oh,
season.
yeah, believe me. I know. The season's disaster.
Brooks is also still
This
winning
is-
the overall point battle.
This is a moral victory for me, and I'm very happy to take it. And moving forward, you've lost a running back. You've lost a wide receiver. I'm feeling good about things turning around the season here. This is all we
Man.
needed to turn things
what,
around
a
this season.
what a turn of emotion.
You smell that?
Let's smell it.
Maybe a comeback?
Could be.
Maybe
I don't
a
know.
comeback. Don't call it. Don't call it.
All I know
Don't
is
call
I'll
it.
be excited for the fantasy update next week. It was a slow death.
I
these
was
last 3
shocked,
weeks.
honestly. I was.
I am too,
completely
dude. I was
shocked.
thinking about, Arian Smith went off. Trevor Etienne had a touchdown. Branson had a touchdown. There's no way I win this game. But you know what? I'm feeling
Yeah.
good now. Anthony Evans is getting more involved in the offense. Oscar Delp had a couple of catches. Man,
If you are going to start sneaking back into this, it's going to be because Branson, Colby, and Rob are going to have 0 points for you over the next couple
and
weeks.
Smile.
And Smiles out. So, but Arian Smith, if he keeps doing that and more,
Yeah, you'll
could
be
change.
okay.
If ETN starts breaking off big runs, could quickly change for that as well.
All right. That's the show. Is that the
Wait,
show?
let's hit something real quick.
Okay.
The clean old fashioned hates moving in 2025.
Oh, yeah. Georgia Tech's moving to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Georgia fans are kind of up in arms about this.
Really?
I think
Some
they're
of
just
them
tired
are.
of being at the
Yeah,
Benz.
tired of playing in the bins.
I get that, but would you rather be at Bobby Dodd?
I've been seeing some people clamor for Bobby Dodd.
Have you been on the field at a Georgia Tech game?
Yeah.
At Georgia Tech?
Yeah.
Sneaky good student section. They're almost like
They hate Georgia.
They're almost like a European soccer student section in the sense that they have their own like their chants, and not just like school fight songs, not "you can't do that," ha, 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 ha. Like they got like real choreographed chants where their nerds of a students have really put together some type of environment. And this is something I remember talking about on the show last year when we came back from that Georgia Tech game, of being like, hey, sneaky good, getting better type of vibe out there in that home field advantage.
Do you think, I mean, this is obviously a money thing for Georgia Tech. Do you think we're starting to see this more and more now? Georgia Tech's always done this. They've always had one game that's played in the Bend.
They have a contract with the ABG.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's honestly not that surprising, but the fact that they did it for the Georgia game just screams that, like, we don't really care about the home and home tradition at all. We're doing this for money. We need $10 million.
It's clear to me that they're trying to do it for what they think is going to be their biggest matchup of the season. Like this year, it's Notre Dame. You're playing them in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then next year it's going to be Georgia. So I feel like they're just kind of trying to figure out who's the biggest matchup the next year for us. And, I mean, I understand you get $10 million from it. That's more than you would ever make from a home game for you. So I understand it from that side, but playing the Mercedes-Benz, it's basically just become Sanford 2.0 for Georgia.
Yeah, it'll be like the 5th year in a row they've played there. Maybe 6. It's been a while.
Could even play there multiple times again.
Do we have anything else?
You got in an interesting little Twitter beef today.
I did. And, you know, I've been thinking the last like 30 minutes how I was going to address this at the end. I was going to deliver a nice little quip, and then we were going to call it a day. But here's what happened today. Obviously, or the last couple of days, there was an individual, a smaller company, or not, I shouldn't say that, a content creator and a podcast that took what appeared to be a very direct shot at some of our work here on this network. And when called out, all right, about this, and when I responded, there was this classic, "Oh, buddy, I wasn't even talking about you," which I always find funny. And I compared it to the Kevin Hart skit where, you know, that stand-up segment where he was like, you ever watched a person get caught by their woman looking at another woman, and they just say the dumbest shit in the world, and they just look at the woman and go, "Oh, I was just eating the chips. I wasn't looking at no naked ass out here." This is the same example and the same exact thing that happens every time a man is confronted by another man about talking shit. The number one response is, "Bro, I wasn't even talking to you," or "I don't even know who you are." That's the classic example when you get called upon your shit. Now, here's the deal. I run in circles with this individual, not directly. We have the same friends. And this is what I wanted to really address, because I think we're two similar people fighting for the same cause, and we're too similar. That's why we butted heads today, to be honest with you. This, from my understanding, is an individual that was a director of player personnel and then now is into recruiting analytics. And he has a company that he promotes young men and gets their contact and their data to college football programs. That sounds like something I would support, doesn't it? That sounds like something that I do as well. Okay, and this is a young person, or a person who has started his own content creation company and is trying to get it up off the floor. That sounds like something we'd be doing, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so what I'm not going to do is stand on a high horse and make some quip about how we don't punch down, even though we don't punch down. And what I will also say about this individual is he is a tremendous shit talker. I will give him credit on that. I will 100% give him credit on that. So, yeah, I don't have a ton to talk about on this one. But, yeah, I thought that was worth addressing at the end of this.
Cool.
Very
We
nice.
good?
We good.
Appreciate you. We'll see y'all tomorrow.